For extreme entertainment, stream comedy whenever you like on ABC iView.
That's so cool.
Extreme feel-goods with Ghosts, Ronnie Cheng International Student and Summer Love.
Never hold back, kids.
Extreme funnies from the Melbourne International Comedy Festival.
That means a lot.
And extreme good times with Starstruck, Peep Show and Fisk.
Why would you say that?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's extreme comedy gold.
So cool.
And you can stream it all for free on ABC iView.
ABC Sport.
We begin this broadcast by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which this match will be played today and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples listening.
AFL.
What a stage. This game is coming to life.
The 2023 AFL Premiership season.
The roar will tell you the story. Fans are on their feet. Can't believe what they're about to see. Holds his arms out wide and tells them to get excited.
What a game. It's got everything. It's like Grease Lightning. It's so cool.
On the run. It's happening again. It's a whole new game.
Cause here it comes, here it comes.
With a talk from 55.
Hello.
That is the cream on the cake.
Sometimes you've just got to sit back and enjoy the show.
And we have a thriller.
To Goey, chest down, goal!
Something big is coming. Goes for home. He's got it. Phenomenal finish. Something big is coming. Something big is coming.
Boys, goals, brilliant.
The 2023 AFL Premiership season.
The chance exchange blows at either end.
Step up in the big moment. Fill your lungs. Are you ready for it? This is a fantastic game of football we've got here.
The big time spot. His drop punt is pure.
Here they come.
What a finish.
Oh, he's a star. What a game.
Brilliant.
He comes. He goes.
It comes the way of Nick Dacos. Gives it to Josh. They've got Dacos running through their DNA.
AFL.
Hard up gives the boundary in the right. Oh, that's one of the goals of the season. Checks on, bends it home. You cannot teach that. Brings it back superbly. Has a shot in the pocket. He is smoking tonight. That's around the body. Sensational goal.
And that's what brings fans through the game.
40 out. What a superstar.
Goes for home. They're red hot.
Punches the air in celebration. Outside of the boot from the impossible angle.
It's high. It's long. It's straight.
Unguarded goal square. He's got it. This is just getting good at the G.
Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio.
Sport Digital.
And now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app. Just look for the AFL button.
Something big is coming. I know.
The Sydney Swans have won one of their last 5 games, while Collingwood has lost one match all season. The Swans were overrun late last week. Today they play the Magpies, the best finishers in footy. In recent times it looks like somewhat of a mismatch, but if you go a little slightly further back, it is a rematch of a pulsating preliminary final last year in which the Swans denied Craig McRae seemingly destined Magpies a spot on grand final day. It is Sydney and Collingwood from a gloomy MCG on Sunday afternoon, round 8 of the AFL Premiership season. My name's Corbin Middlemass. Matt Clinch to call the footy with me. Down on the boundary is Lauren Borden and our grandstand AFL experts. Our number 1 picks, Brett Delidio and Mark Murphy. Hello, Lids.
G'day, Corby. Good to be here, Murph. Another beautiful sunny day here in Melbourne. Well, it was sunny where I was earlier this morning, Corby. I was up in Yea. I had a little overnight stay out there. Had a bit of a campfire. It was beautiful, mate, out there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It was beautiful, mate. I loved it. Got to get away from the city every now and again.
It was a bit rainy today, 13 degrees, showers forecast. We'll duck inside both camps. Matt Clinch is actually in the Magpies camp at the moment, so we'll hear from Taylor Adams momentarily, who, of course, is a key part of the engine room for the Collingwood Magpies this afternoon. They did it again last week, Murph, with a last gasp victory over in Adelaide.
Yes, they did, Corby, and you just feel like every time you watch Collingwood, they're just going to get a win, no matter where they are. And I sat there watching last week, and they were 3 or so goals down, and you just felt they were going to get over the line. It's just this belief and this want that this team just keep on showing week after week. They just keep on finding a way at the death, don't they? So it's they're a terrific side to watch. Big task against Sydney, who have certainly had their challenges over the past month as well, and think we're all probably coming here expecting that Collingwood will get the win, but you can never tick off anything these days in AFL football, and Sydney's certainly a huge challenge, so hopefully it's a tight game for us.
No late change here at the MCG. Jack Ginnivan is the sub for Collingwood, so omitted at selection and gets a chance to play as part of the 23 as the tactical sub. And Aaron Francis is going to be the sub for the Sydney Swans. There's one game ongoing between Essendon and Port Adelaide. The Dons are up at halftime by 14 points over in Adelaide.
Look at you, feed you a banana sideways, couldn't we? Big smile on your face.
9 goals, 155. They lead Port Adelaide, who are 5-11. 41. So, I love to read the short scores, sort of 9-1 to 5-11, and how important it is, because there's a huge difference between 55 and 41 to when you say 10 scoring shots to 16, and yet it's the Bombers with the fewer scoring shots that have kicked straight, and they lead at halftime by 14 points.
I remember a previous coach of mine used to bring that up about the actual ladder and what the perceived ladder should be, about how you should have kicked the goal, and we were down the bottom at one point, but we should have been 13 or 14th, so it doesn't really...
it makes you
can't
feel
read
better?
a lot into it, but it makes you feel better at the time, but not for the Port Adelaide at the moment.
Better.
Is it?
That's inspiring stuff. Take anything you can.
Ken Judge used to always say with us on Grandstand AFL in Perth that bad kicking's bad football, and that's a little bit what it is for Port Adelaide. 14 down at halftime, 16 scoring shots to 10. We'll keep you updated with what happens there throughout the day, but it's time to get down to the top of the Collingwood race. Matt Clinch is down there. Clinchy.
Well, thanks, Colby. As always, it's a thrill to head inside the Collingwood camp before the match, and Taylor Adams has been good enough to join us from Collingwood ahead of their big clash against the Sydney Swans. Taylor, great to see you. Just as a straw poll amongst our team last night, were you watching the footy, the King's coronation, or something else?
Neither. I was last night I was stuck in a bit of uni, and then purposely didn't put the footy on, so I didn't see any of that.
What are you studying?
I'm doing an MBA, so I've got an assignment in a couple of weeks, so I'm trying to get that out of the way.
That wouldn't strike me as the ideal preparation, being stuck in the books, but do you find it sort of relaxes you and keeps you focused and allowing you to get some work done?
Kind of. It's just sort of, at the moment, a bit of a necessity. I fall behind a little bit, so it is good. It takes the mind off, getting too consumed in footy.
Obviously, last year, prelim final against the Sydney Swans, went down by a point in a game which would have sent you into the grand final. How much of that sticks in the memory, or is it 6 months ago and you move on to 2023?
Yeah, for me, not a whole lot. I wasn't actually at the ground back in September last year, so had to watch it at home, which was probably harder than being there. But our season last year was incredible, but we knew that once we left the SCG that night that was it, and we look forward to what we could do in 2023, and that's been our focus for obviously all of the summer and the early part of this year. And both teams look quite different. Clearly different venue today, and I expect a similar sort of contest. Obviously, really contested game of footy against the Swans generally, so we're looking forward to that. 6
wins from the opening 7 games. How would you say the team's playing in your eyes at the moment?
Yeah, really well. I think we're obviously the last couple of games have been really thrilling wins where we've had to come from behind the last 3 games, but we're probably playing patchy footy at the moment, but doing enough to get the 4 points, but plenty to improve on at the same time.
You had the both sides of the experience. You weren't a part of the side on Anzac Day. Unfortunately, you're out through suspension, but you were there last week against the Adelaide Crows. How do the two compare? You would have felt like a supporter, and do you feel like you're more in control last week, even though Adelaide kicked the first goal of the final term?
Yeah, definitely. You feel a little bit helpless sitting up in the stands. Both great wins, obviously. The fight of the team in both of those games and ability to stay in the moment and control what we could control was really impressive, and thoroughly enjoyed it being out there last week. Backs against the wall over at Adelaide Oval, where Adelaide have been playing really, really good footy. So it was a real challenge for us, but obviously the boys did a fantastic job to hold on and get across the line.
For the Collingwood listeners, how different are you trying to play in that final term as opposed to how you play in the first quarter, for example?
Slightly different, probably a little bit more aggressive, given that we're down by 25 points or so. But I think the thing that changed was the consistency in role and the application to, playing those roles for longer. And we're able to own territory in that last quarter and give our forwards a bit more of a chance to score. And that was something we didn't do that well throughout the first 3 quarters. So that was our main focus.
So I think it's in the last 28 games, 17 decided by 14 points or less. You've won 15 of those 17. Are you familiar with those numbers, and does it surprise you that you are able to win in the manner in which you do, or has it now become instinctive that the belief has grown and you know that if you can get within striking distance, you're going to give it an almighty chase?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know those numbers exactly, but I knew that obviously we're playing in a lot of close ones over the last 18 months, and I think that's prepared us well. I mean, we trained it a lot over the last 2 pre-seasons, fine-tuned a few things late last year, and I've changed a few things again this year to make sure that we're able to get over the line in those close ones. But yeah, I feel really confident that when push comes to shove, that the guys stick to roll and are able to execute under pressure.
You've obviously been playing without a ruck for the last couple of weeks. Mason Cox comes back in, so great to have some tall timber returning. But you've actually been more dominant in your centre clearances this year than what you were last year. Do you know the reason as to why you've been able to score more from centre bounces and be more attacking?
Oh, we put a lot of work in it over the pre-season. Hayden Skipworth took over the midfield, and yeah, one of his main focuses was our ability to score from stoppage, particularly centre bounce. And yeah, we've changed up the way we've gone about. Obviously, bringing Tom Mitchell in there. We've seen Nick and Josh Dacos play a little bit more through there, so they've helped those numbers. But yeah, I mean, application to roll again and continue to work on it. It's a focus for us. Obviously, with the 6-6-6 rule, it's really important to get those centre bounces right. So it's been pleasing that we've been able to start the year strong in that aspect.
Taylor Adams was with you on ABC Sport. With the inclusion of Tom Mitchell, who you made mention of, Nick Dacos and Scott Pendlebury returns today. How much has that changed your role in 2023?
Yeah, obviously I'm playing a little bit more in front of the ball. It's been a little bit different. Obviously losing Pat Lipinski probably has aided in that as well. He was probably touted to play that high half-forward role for us. So yeah, I've sort of found myself playing in that position, which I'm really enjoying. Yeah, I think it probably adds another string to my bow that I can go forward and execute in that role, and I don't have to be the guy that has to get in and under all the time. Clearly Tom Mitchell's done a great job in helping me out in that role, and Pendle's done it for a number of years now, so there's guys that can pick up the slack there and make sure that we're a really strong contested team.
And obviously Sydney being a formidable side, they've got a dominant forward line as well. How much have you focused on them in terms of your preparation for this week?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, obviously they're probably similar to the way that we're playing at the moment. Not playing their best footy, but always in games and have the potential to dominate large parts of games. So yeah, clearly they've got a huge challenge in front of us today. As you said, their forward line is stacked, but their midfield's also really, really good, and their back line, they defend all grounds really well. So yeah, it's going to be a great challenge for us today. It's great to be back at the G. I've been here I haven't played here for about a month, so looking forward to getting back here and having the home ground advantage.
Yeah, traditionally played Sydney up in Sydney, so it's probably a little missed opportunity with the Magic Round taking place in the NRL up in Brisbane, but to see the Magpie Army back here at the MCG, it's a cool day, but I think we're expecting over 60,000, so you must enjoy playing in front of such a vocal and parochial home crowd.
Yeah, our supporters have been amazing the last 2 years. It's been surreal to just be a part of it. Sitting in the stand on Anzac Day was awesome to be surrounded by our fans, and the atmosphere of all our games at the moment, it's just electric. So yeah, we're so grateful for our supporters and what they bring to our football club, and hopefully we'll put on a good show for them today.
And just one final one off Broadway, the excitement that Tasmania has been announced as the 19th AFL side. You were a part of the Giants in 2012, 2013. GWS went down a very different path in terms of the drafting of young players.
Yep.
If Tassie want to be successful right from the outset, what were a few of the lessons you took out of that?
I said this during the week. The thing that I took away from my experience up there was surround yourself with good people. So yeah, the ability for management to put good people in key roles, and that includes like player welfare, obviously senior coaching roles, development roles. That was the reason why I knew that the Giants were going to be a good team, and it was sort of a matter of time. They had a lot of high draft picks, but most of those guys have gone on to have pretty successful careers, and the Giants were a kick away from being in the grand final in 2016, and then obviously lost the grand final in 2019. So I thought they did an exceptional job, and it was a place that a lot of young men were really proud to be a part of. And yeah, I said during the week that we, as a club, we stood for something. So yeah, I love my time up there, and I'm really grateful for the experience.
Welfare and facilities, are they obviously a big part to trying to make sure you hit the ground running?
Yeah, the facilities, that was the other thing that I probably forgot, is facilities. Make sure they've got a obviously state-of-the-art facility for players to train at and play at, and it sounds like that's been taken care of. But yeah, the welfare of players leaving home, the transition from being an 18-year-old kid being looked after by mum and dad to living by yourself is obviously a big step. So we had Craig and Melissa Lambert up there who just did an amazing job for us. They were our second set of parents and had a massive role there, taking care of 20 young kids.
Do you look back now, I mean, it was all-encompassing when you started and you were a young player, but to be a part of something for the first time, I mean, it's unique with Tassie.
Yeah.
Do you think players who are a bit older than you, maybe at the back end of their career, will be keen to be a part of it?
Yeah, When I first got drafted for the Giants, I was pretty unsure. Within a couple of weeks of being up there, I knew it was a really good place to be. Everything was a first. It was thrilling. It was exciting. As I said, as a playing group, we stood for something. I think it's a different assignment. Obviously, Tassie's a footy state, so they're going to have strong support down there, and that'll go a long way to keeping players involved and excited about what they can do. But yeah, as I said, an amazing opportunity for a lot of young guys when we went to the Giants, and our ability to try to build something was really special.
As always, we love catching up with you before a game. Thanks as always for your time. It's pretty chilly down here. Best of luck this afternoon.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
And our thanks, Corby, to Tash and Nadine. It's always great to head inside the Collingwood camp before the match. Around 60,000 expected, and it is chilly at ground level.
Thanks, Clinchy. Absolutely. Excellent access to be able to chat to the players pre-game, but they do it better than any other club, Collingwood, with their access pre-game.
No, they do. I reckon we made mention this a few times, Corby, where when they actually speak, they're really honest and they give you a lot rather than the cliches and the standard lines that you certainly get. I know Brett Deledio was big in that sort of department, just giving the old cliche.
Was I?
Oh,
what interview did you do with me?
I just did here around the traps. Well, coming in as a number one pick, used to learn from the previous number one pick, and just cliche central from Brett Deledio.
So that's interesting. I mean, you guys have come out of footy clubs where the media environment is so well managed nowadays. You get so much education on how to deal with the press, but you're right, they are open and forthright and they know what they can say and they give a bit more than other clubs. Is that a reflection of the entire club? Is that why they're like that?
Oh, look, who knows? I think you only really understand that if you're involved with them, but I think winning helps.
Yep.
Because then players are obviously, you're not going to get stung on the reverse by things you do say by media if you go out and have a poor performance the following week. So, but at the same time, they play with a lot of risk, and not that they speak with risk, but they just speak honest and forthright, which we love in the media and we love as football fans, because you just like to hear characters and get an understanding of what's actually going on within the football club. So yeah, you got to hand it to the way in which Collingwood are conducting themselves at the moment.
Well, I feel like we're getting better, and I classify myself as the media because we're in it obviously now, Murph, but we're more accepting of players' personalities, and we don't shoot them down as much for having an opinion, because we're like, oh, they're so vanilla, they don't do anything. And I was in that boat as well, because it was like, well, as soon as you came out and said anything, if you didn't play a great game the next week, bang, there was your headline.
Yep.
Oh, this guy's outspoken and he's worrying too much about A when he should be worried about B. And I remember I did a big double-page spread in the Herald Sun, and Plough said to me, he goes, oh, mate, well done after that game. You played really well after that, because some players aren't able to handle that. And I was like, that was a strange comment to be able to deal with that sort of stuff. But now it's like water off a duck's back for all these players. Yeah. It's just like, I'll get through the article, I'll have a chat, and you find out a bit more about me and whatever else. But really, it's more about growing the industry for your fan base and giving them a little bit more access. And I think we're so much better at that now than what we were when we played.
Oh, it's come a long way, and I think no doubt the social media side of things, exacerbates that as well, because players here, they love American sports, and as we all know in America, they love a bit of self-promotion, and I feel that AFL is certainly starting to get on that bandwagon now, which is great, because fans get to see more of what the actual athletes like. I think.
What does your dad say about that? Because my old man's like, oh, bloody Americanisms, can't have it.
No, look, I mean, all 60s, 70s, so I don't think they'll change it. Sort of set in their ways, aren't they, a little bit? But I think more, it's great to get an understanding of what players think and how they go about their business, rather than just reading about it on a double-page spread. You're constantly getting updates from certain players all the time.
Josh Dacos definitely is playing. Nick Dacos is also playing, who's had a lower left leg complaint. He had his lowest rated game, according to Champion Data, of the season last week, with Ben Keys obviously going to him for a little bit of attention. He faces Ryan Clark today, who did the job on him twice last year, including on preliminary final night. Collingwood in Sydney in front of us here at the MCG. It is a gloomy afternoon, temperature around 13 degrees. There's no late change. Jack Ginnivan and Aaron Francis are the two technical subs. Score check from Adelaide Oval. It is Essendon 10-1-61. They lead Port Adelaide 6-14-50. So we're 8 minutes into the third quarter there. So that's an 11-point lead for Essendon in the early game. And just repeating, no late change here at the MCG. And we can go straight back down to ground level. Lauren Borden is with us on the boundary this afternoon, and she's deep inside the Sydney Swans camp. Loz.
Thanks, Corby. I do have Don Pike joining me on the boundary. Don, obviously you've got Collingwood today. They are the masters of the close finish, and it's something that your side over last week and a couple of weeks ago as well wasn't able to master and finish off. What do you change up to know that you can maintain your game style in a close finish if it comes to that here?
Yeah, obviously there was some unfortunate learnings for us in the two games we lost against Port and GWS last week. We had both games, we'd like to have closed those out. So appreciate what Collingwood's, been able to do, and the quality of their finishing has been, pretty well known. For us, it's probably the importance of putting ourselves in the game and making sure we come out and play the style we want to play, and then, expect that at some stage the momentum sort of changes, and if we get in a situation where we're in front and they're coming, that, we've got a plan to address that.
And what is the mood like around the club, obviously, with that 1 point loss last week, as well as a heavy loss against Geelong the week before? What's it like around the club as you look to build things back up again?
Yeah, it's been really, it's been good. It's been probably disappointing that we probably sit there ruining the two close losses, and at which point you'd be, 5-2 versus 3-4. But the reality is we're 3-4, so we understand we've got to get back to work, and today creates a great opportunity for our guys to go back to. Playing. We played some good footy last week, just didn't get the result. So last week was pleasing after a really poor performance against Geelong, and we get another chance today against a really high quality opposition at home, at their home. So I think our guys look at it as right. Let's grit our teeth and get back to work.
You have defeated Richmond, Gold Coast and Hawthorn. Do you feel like today is that time to take a big scalp for the season?
Well, I think it's an opportunity for us to play the footy that we know we're capable of playing, and play it consistently and get a result. And we don't in any way underestimate the opposition, but we understand that for us to, it becomes about how we play. We know how Collingwood want to play, but we've got to come and bring our game and then and do it for the 120 minutes, which is what it's going to take against a good opposition.
Let's head upstairs now for some more questions from Mark Murphy and Brett Delidio.
Don, Brett Delidio here, mate. I just want to get your thoughts on and where you currently feel like you and the Swans boys are at. I feel you're just scratching the surface in terms of your best footy. Do you feel that yourself in the coaching group?
Yeah, well, look, we've probably had a few interruptions throughout the season, with regard to some injuries. At one point we lost three of our backs, and we probably haven't been able to just get our best crew on the park. Yeah. But that said, the two games I mentioned, the Port game and last week's game, they're games we should win. And at which point we're sitting here at 5-2 and the scoreboard looks quite different. But the reality is we didn't, so we just need to do it better for longer, and that's going to be our challenge today.
And I feel like someone who is probably a little bit similar to what the team is, Isaac Heaney. Is he someone we could inject into the midfield, not unlike Jordan De Goey, get him around the footy a bit more? Is he so dominant for you up forward that you need to keep him down there?
Well, he's an interesting one, Isaac. With some of our changes we've had, he's been probably our most constant. Him and Will Hayward, probably, and Logan have been the three that have played most of the game. So, yeah, we're very mindful of him and what he can do forward for us. But I think there's an opportunity for him today to get some midfield minutes as well, and really get him around the ball and see if we can spark him into the form that he's probably in through most of last year.
Don, Mark Murphy here. A name that is synonymous with Collingwood at the moment is Nick Dacos. Now, you're probably not going to tell me if you're going to tag him or not, but is it a role that someone's going to have on their agenda
Ryan
today,
Clark,
or is it more of a team job, or is it more just, we're going to back in our structure and the way we play?
It'll probably be, I'll take the political answer, it'll be a combination of all, Look, we recognise he's a great young player, and, he's been able to, do some serious damage in the games he's played, and, like any opposition, you want to take away their strengths, and we see him as one of their strengths, so we've certainly got a plan for him, and it comes about execution for us now.
And it hasn't been a happy hunting ground previously playing here at the MCG, as Horst brought that up this week about trying to rectify the home of football, playing your best football here.
Well, we actually played pretty well here last year for chunks of it. We haven't played Collingwood here for, I think I saw something like 7 or 8 years, so it's been a long time since we played Collingwood. So obviously poor against Melbourne earlier in the year here, but last year we had some good wins down here, so the ground doesn't really hold any fear for our guys. They love playing. I mean, who doesn't as a young fella growing up love playing on the MCG? And we get an opportunity today, and it's going to be, I don't know how many people will turn up, but it'll be a good sized crowd, and our members will be down here supporting, and we look forward to cracking in.
Do you just to go back on to the Pies, Don? I want to know, do you try and get the job done as much as you can early, knowing that they're probably going to come? Or do you talk to your boys at all about how the Pies have been able to do that? Because I feel like it's no industry secret that when they get a roll on in those last quarters, look out, they just seem to get on that real roll.
Yeah, look, and there's some things they do in those last quarters, and really, they have caution to the wind and start moving the ball. But it comes down to, I think I saw something during the week about their pressure and their energy in the last quarter. And I expect if we get into that situation, it'll be a good spot to be in, and a good challenge for us. And we did it well. I mean, the last 2 times we played them, both in the prelim final and the round 22 game up in Sydney, we were in front at 3/4 time, and we managed to get it done. So look, our guys understand what they're likely to do, but the reality is we can't sit back and just accept what Collingwood want to bring. We've got to bring our own stuff, for the start, but also if we get into that position in the fourth quarter, and make sure that we don't shut down and allow the game just to be played in our back half, because Collingwood are behind and want to race the ball forward.
Don, it's Corbin Middlemass here. It feels like we've debated it all week as to the fast finishing Magpies. Is it their belief, or is it the fear in the opposition? And I'm sure there's parts of a combination of both, but if it is close at 3/4 time today, do you mention it? Is it something that's brought up in the huddle?
Oh, look, we've spoken to it. Look, we wouldn't be preparing our players if we hadn't spoken about it. And whether it's at 3/4 time, whether it's through the course of the game, I mean, if they get on a roll and kick 3 or 4 goals, I mean, the crowd will get up, and we need to be able to embrace that and see that for what it is. And I think you're right, Corbin. I think they come hard in the end, but it's a combination of they've got this great belief, and clearly having played that way and won numerous close games, that's built that belief. But there's also, I think, in the opposition sort of go back and they get on the back foot, and a bit like a boxer. If you stop throwing punches, you're going to get knocked out, and that's really what tends to happen. You see it, this sort of slow with ball movement. There's no real energy to take the game on. It's sort of almost like you're just protecting a lead, and we've certainly spoken to our guys about keeping on playing to win versus trying to avoid losing.
And just last one, I know you've got to get out of the elements.
It's nice and beautiful down here. It's a lovely sunny day here in Melbourne.
I apologise. But just on the psychological aspect of sport, so for everything this Collingwood team's achieved under Craig McRae, they haven't beaten you guys. Do you play on that with your group, the fact that you ended their season last year on preliminary final night and obviously got them late in the regular season as well?
No, not really. I think our guys know. I mean, they'd be aware of the results the last couple of times we played them, and so would Collingwood. So that sets up for a really, I think, a great game today. And it's important we bring what we need to bring to put ourselves in our style in the game, and then we'll see where we get. But it's an exciting game, and looking forward to it.
Get out of the rain, Don. Appreciate your time as always.
Good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Don Pike, assistant coach with the Sydney Swans. The light rain falling. Lauren Borden on the boundary for us. So hopefully for Loz's case, the weather improves a little bit. It's a cold, gloomy day in Melbourne, 13 degrees, and the banner crews are both out on the playing arena at the moment. Interesting to note, the Collingwood banner hasn't actually been sprawled out for some reason or another, while the Sydney banner started to get a little bit of wind underneath it as their banner crew get set for the arrival of the Swans. There's no late change here at the MCG. It means that Nick Dacos is playing, so he's in the Collingwood team despite having a left leg complaint during the week. Jack Ginnivan is the Medi sub for the Pies, and it's Aaron Francis for the Swans. Just chatting to Don about the fast finishing Magpies and whether it's the belief of the Pies or the fear of the opposition. If you were to try and divvy it up, Lids, what do you think is more responsible for these close finishes? It's amazing now. 16 of their last 22 games decided by 15 or less, and they've won all but 2 of them.
I don't think you can have one without the other, to be honest. Like, I couldn't say it's all one.
Get off the fence, Lids.
Because I think they go hand in hand, Murph. It's not because I want to sit on the fence. I feel like Collingwood's belief in themselves to play that way and take risks is better than any other teams. But then clubs are now buying into that. Oh no, here they come. We're in trouble here. Oh, look out. What are we going to do about this? And we can't stop it. We can't throw someone behind the ball, 2 blokes behind the ball. So I feel like they just go hand in hand. They've got other sides beaten before they even play them in the last quarter. They're behind.
I think Don was right then. I think sides are going, we need to try. We know they're coming. Let's just try and hold on. So rather than just keep on playing the way in which you're playing, because if you go slow and put the ball back into a contest, you're giving them exactly what Collingwood want.
Yeah.
And they get the ball back into a contest, you go long down the line, then you go bang straight through the corridor. Whereas if you just keep on playing the way in which you're playing against Collingwood, not that you're going to win, but you give yourself more of an opportunity because you're playing the way in which you want to play.
That sounded like an old membership slogan. They know we're coming.
Oh, I've heard that before.
Yes.
You can smell what the Blues are cooking.
That's it's one of your old ones, Murph. Mark Murphy, Brett Delidio, Matt Clinch about to step back into the box here in just a moment. Lauren Borden downstairs, and I'm Corbin Middlemass. It is Collingwood and Sydney coming up next. Meanwhile, over in Adelaide, the Bombers by 3 points over Port Adelaide, 5 to go in the third. Full preview next.
What's the best thing in the world that's also on the ABC Listen app? The footy! This season, get your footy live and ad-free on the ABC Listen app.
Straight through for a goal.
AFL, NRL, men's, women's. Whatever you fix, we've got you covered.
She's got it. Bye-bye. See you later.
Every goal, try, mark and tackle. Called by ABC Sports' expert commentary team.
Set. Bingo.
AFL and NRL, live and ad-free. Get it on the ABC Listen app.
ABC Sport.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the 2023 AFL Premiership season.
Pass out to the right, steps on goal, superb finish.
Turns, whacks it straight through the middle. Pulls the trigger on goal and goes bang.
'Cause here it comes, here it comes.
On ABC Radio, ABC Sport Digital, and now streaming on the ABC Listen app. Look for the AFL button.
Something big is coming, I know.
Sunday afternoon footy from the MCG, a rematch of last year's preliminary final as Collingwood plays the Swans at the MCG for the first time in a decade. Can the Magpies reclaim top spot on the AFL ladder, or can the Sydney Swans break a 2-game losing streak and make it 4 wins on the trot against the Black and White Army? Great to have your company on Grandstand AFL, wherever you're listening. A big warm welcome to our listeners through New South Wales and ACT News Radio for the first time this afternoon. Matt Clinch and Corbin Middlemass to call all the action. Lauren Borden is down on the boundary, and your experts are Brett Delidio and Mark Murphy, as you'd expect each Sunday on ABC Radio. There's no late changes for either side, so Nick Dacos will take his spot in the selected side. Scott Pendlebury and Mason Cox both return. And for the Sydney Swans, who've had their challenges in their back six, Robbie Fox and Justin McInerney come back in with the subs this afternoon. Aaron Francis for the Sydney Swans and Jack Ginnivan for the Magpies. We've had a chance to hear from both sides, with Taylor Adams from the Magpies and Don Pike from the Sydney Swans. Just as we gather together, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm guessing you didn't watch the King's coronation last night, Liz?
No reception out in the on the river last night.
When you were out in the campground?
Yeah, just missed it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll watch it back though.
I was about to say, you got it taped?
Yeah. Hanging out. If I can leave halfway through the last, I'll just so I can. Nah, please.
What about for you, Murph? Were you watching Saturday Night Footy, or were you spending some time with the better half?
I was doing a bit of both. Clinchy, spending a bit of time with Jesse watching a bit of the footy in the King's coronation, which was great to see. King Charles III Lids receive the crown, and Queen Camilla.
What'd you learn?
Spend a bit of money on the ceremony and the gold, and bit of carry on.
I wouldn't be downloading the Spotify playlist. I'm not sure the soundtrack was for me, from what I saw.
I thought this would be right in your wheelhouse. You watched a bit of it?
Not much of a royal, I must admit. The most entertaining part was, who's the young lad? Is he Prince George?
Yep.
Yeah, he's just them trying to control George throughout the whole thing is probably the highlight.
Oh, no, it might be Louis, I reckon, the youngest
Louis,
one.
sorry. Yeah, Louis. Chops up really well as some nice little sort of TikTok social media content as you see the compilation of how he sort of yawning as King Charles is obviously getting crowned, and it didn't quite do it for him, young Louis.
No, when you think about a 4-year-old trying to remain calm in that sort of situation, it'd be pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Cut out.
It was a quality night for us on the couch. We watched that and then flicked over the footy in the second half. That was Sunday night, spending quality time together. We're at the MCG. The sun is trying to poke through. It's been a cold day in Melbourne today, and we've had a fair bit of rain overnight, but the hope is that it will clear throughout the afternoon. It's an interesting clash in the sense that Collingwood have won 6 of their first 7 leads. You probably wouldn't say they're absolutely firing on all cylinders. They've had some personnel challenges they've been juggling without a dominant ruck, although Mason Cox comes back in after having some internal bleeding after what they thought was some broken or damaged ribs. Turns out he ended up with a rush to the ER and was out of action, not having any contact work for 2 or 3 weeks. So interesting to see how he sets back in, given Collingwood's midfield has been firing. And the Sydney Swans are a bit of a curiosity. Last year's grand finalist obviously didn't have a great day on that day here at the MCG against the Cats. Did they get there ahead of time, or are they going to be like they were last year in the back half of the season? That's where we see the best of the Sydney Swans.
Yeah, well, I reckon, Murph, we were talking about this on our show with Corby about the Swans probably being a little bit premature in terms of their development and over-exceeded a little bit last year. And I'm probably a little bit in that camp. They play exciting footy, don't get me wrong, but their ability to knock off the Pies late last year, in prelim final, and to get themselves into that granny. And Corby, we love your stats on know, the sides that get thumped in a granny as to where they end up. And
you want them right now?
Yeah, give them to me.
Yep. So since 2000, 8 teams have been beaten by 50 points or more on grand final day. None of the previous 7 have won a single final the next year. So some of them have played finals, gone out in straight sets, or lost an elimination final first up like the Bulldogs the year after. But if you make the grand final and you get heavily beaten, 0 finals wins the following year.
Yeah. And it feels like Sydney at sort of 11th on the ladder, 3 and 4, as Don Pike said. They could have won a couple of those close ones against Port Adelaide and GWS, and it looks a lot better. But then they also could be in that rustle of teams that are somewhere between sort of 4th to 10th.
Yeah, they could. I was interested to hear him, and when you understand what's happening at Clubland and listening to, they win the Port Adelaide game, which is a close one. They win the Giants one, which was last week, and all of a sudden they're in a different spot than where they were. And conversely, Collingwood in the same boat. They win their close games. Sydney have lost theirs. So that's the difference between, Final 4 or Final 8 and missing it. So yeah, the two sides one side in Collingwood are getting it right at the death, and they constantly get it right, so that's no fluke. And Sydney this year haven't been getting it right in the last quarter. So be interesting to see how Sydney go about it. Their last couple of games here at the G, obviously in that grand final, getting heavily beaten, and then Melbourne earlier this year where they got touched up as well. So they'll want to come out and play a really good brand of football at the G against a big Melbourne club in Collingwood.
Yeah, they've led 5 of their 7 games at three-quarter time, Sydney. Yep. So only won 3 of them, and the 2 games they've been blown off the park have been against 2 of the better teams in the comp. Obviously, Geelong down in Geelong a fortnight ago, and last time they were here, Clinchy at the G against Melbourne back in round 3.
The Sydney Swans are making their way out to the MCG. They're in their old South Melbourne jumper, predominantly white, with the red V and the red shorts as they're led out onto the ground by Callum Mills and given the hostile welcome from the Collingwood Army with the boo as they make their way out onto the MCG, and the Magpies are a few moments away. So they've got 18 of their premiership, 18 of their grand finalist side from last year, the Sydney Swans, out there today, and yet without sort of Paddy McCartan combining with Tom McCartan, it feels like their defence is maybe their number one issue. Do you sort of see it that way?
And Dane Rampy, of course, who's out for the long term as well. It really makes that's where they set up a lot of their defence and their ball movement. So not being able to catch it and turn it over, they're having to spoil or scrap, keeps the ball in the area and just invites teams to apply that pressure and get scores on the board back the other way. So, yeah, no doubt, Clinchy, I think that is exactly what... and Don Pike spoke to it. Their personnel issues are ultimately what's probably letting them down in those key moments, and a reason why they're not getting those wins. But you can only go out there with the team you've got, and you've got to put up a good fight. Not unlike what Collingwood have been able to do. They've been without a ruckman for the best part of the last few weeks, and still managing to find a way how to win games.
That's amazing, those numbers, by the way. Their clearance numbers and what they're doing around the ball, despite the absence of a recognised ruckman. So their number 1 Collingwood scores from centre bounce. And it was sort of highlighted during the week that teams like St Kilda, the Bulldogs, Fremantle, who do have a dominant big man, are all bottom 4 in that category for scores from centre bounce. They're 18th in hit-outs in the competition, and their opposition are number 1 for hit-outs, whichever team they play. So they get... they very rarely get first hands on the footy, and yet they score more out of the middle than any other team.
It's interesting because one of the key roles of when you're setting up a side would be to have a dominant ruckman. So it's sort of bucking the trend at the moment. But having said that, I'd still prefer a dominant ruckman on my team than not. But it just shows you that Collingwood are playing with an understanding. They know they're not going to, or haven't been winning the hit-outs, and they are playing accordingly. So whether that's playing from behind and pushing their opponent in or vice versa. So they've obviously been studying the opposition really well and understanding what they do really well to try and nullify them in the ruck and around the ball. So Mason Cox comes in and gives them a different look today. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about it.
As the Magpies make their way out onto the MCG. So led out by Darcy Moore and Braden Maynard right there at the front in front of a parochial black and white crowd. The first time they've been back at the MCG for a few weeks, and they make their way through some supporters on either side and through the banner and out onto the G. So just on the comparison between, say, a midfield like Collingwood and maybe a midfield like Carlton, Murph, is that it feels like the Pies have got a number of players who run through, whether it's Taylor Adams and Tom Mitchell, who they've added to the club, and then the X factors in Jordan De Goey, Scott Pendlebury, Nick Dacos every now and then when he can get a look in. What's the balance in trying to get those that can win the in and under and feed it out to the players who are the outlet to then deliver it well inside 50?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked and you mentioned balance, because that's exactly what they've got. They've got the guys who are prepared to put their head over the ball and win the hard ball. They've got guys who are powerful. They've got aerobic players. So they've got every base covered in terms of the midfield balance that you want, rather than just having one of everything. You've got different types of players, and they all understand each other's game really well. And we're seeing that week to week, aren't we? With Tom Mitchell's been a great inclusion, but he's also added getting forward and kicking goals to his resume, whereas previously in probably the last few years, Lidsy's got a lot of the ball playing for Hawthorn, but got him centre back. But a change of method and a change of team, obviously coming to Collingwood, he's getting his balls more centre forward. So
he's also not relied upon as much. At Hawthorn it was Tom Mitchell or bust almost. Yeah. Jago O'Meara chip in a little bit, and then Warple every now and again. But here he gets to just play his role. He comes in, he just he's a cherry on top player versus being the number one mid. And then you've got guys on the periphery like you spoke about, Jack Chris, who just bursts from stoppage, still side bottoms, playing amazing footy still.
De Goey's the burst too.
De Goey's the exact same thing. Will Hoskin-Elliott, who's just that power up and back wingman. So, they've got some guys in there that they just complement each other so well.
Yep.
It's a replay of last year's preliminary final, in which the Sydney Swans prevailed by a point, advanced through to the grand final to take on the Cats. Revenge, retaliation, redemption, does any of that stick in your mind when you have been beaten in a prelim final, given it's so hard to get to grand finals?
Well, I suppose, you probably think back to how you went personally and, did you play well, did you not? How can I make sure that I don't? If I didn't play well, how can I make sure I don't? What did I learn? More so, unless the coach really revs you up about it, I don't think you think about it a hell of a lot, Clinchy. I'm not sure. Are you the same, Merv?
Look, I don't think so, but I think the coach plays a huge role in how players think about it going into the game. And from listening to the way in which Collingwood talk, I wouldn't have thought they'd bring up that, or in terms of vice versa, Sydney bringing that up and going, we've got the wood on these guys, that they might do that, whereas Collingwood's probably more about, this is the team we've got at the moment, this is the process we're going about, this is just another opportunity to get a win in front of our home fans and put on another display. But I think Collingwood wouldn't be thinking about it whatsoever, because obviously they haven't had the success, but Sydney might be drawing upon that and having the wood over them for quite a number of their last performances.
You asked the question of Don Pike as to how much attention Nick Dacos might get. He sort of suggested that he'll have some attention put into him. I think we all expect Ryan Clark to be standing alongside him, don't we? And how will a young player in his second season deal with that, given that he's not trained a lot this week?
Yeah, well, I think he's a different beast, isn't he, from what we've seen so far, Nick Dacos. Clark's certainly going to wear him like a glove, and I don't think he's going to wander off and try and get his own ball at all today. So if he does have the job on Nick, he's going to obviously get into him. But knowing the way in which Sydney have played through history, even when we've played against them, Lids, when you are getting tagged by Sydney, you're getting tagged by the whole team, because they usually let you know that if you're in the gun, you'll be coming off bruised and sore by the end of the game. So it's going to be an important start, because Nick Dacos, he just looks like he's just got a licence to do what he wants. So he can come off a half-back flank or come off a wing or start in the middle, and he just looks like he just plays football from McRae, just saying, you know what, we're just going to back you in. The ball in your hands is better for us, so you just go play football. So
wherever you think
he's going to have he's going to have a trailer on the back of him today. So it'll be interesting to watch.
He hasn't really been tested out though with a hard tag yet, I don't think, where someone's been like, you know what, I'm not going to give you a sniff, not like what you used to get when you play. There's a premier midfielder. It's like, good luck, mate. You're not touching it today. And you, as you said, you got bashed by everyone else on the field as well as your guy just purely out there. His role was to stop you from touching the footy. And that's what we haven't seen as we watch him warm up currently in the midfield. So they're obviously expecting it, and it's easier to probably lose your player in the midfield rather than just be at half-back because you're out of the game for half of it. But given his work rate, I feel like he can play anywhere, like you said, and just go and be as damaging as you think he can be for the side in whatever position you see fit, and we'll just adjust around it. And I think that's the ultimate compliment from your coach to say, mate, you just make the call, coach yourself.
And sometimes it works in your favour too. Like, I agree, Lids, he hasn't had that real hard run with, and if he gets it today, he'll be able to pull him around wherever he wants. So he might come off a half-forward flank and then release Collingwood to have 5 forwards and just go plap around the ball because he knows he's dragging someone, or he come off a half-back flank and then just pull him around anywhere. So it's sometimes going to work in your favour if you are getting someone who's just coming with you everywhere, because you can really pull the opposition apart.
You guys both would have had that in your careers at different times. Does it take your mind off what you're doing? I mean, particularly early if you haven't really had it?
Yep.
Yeah,
there's no doubt you're thinking
does.
about it 100%. And it gets to the point where you're like, I don't know where my next one's coming, and all I'm going to try and do, and all I used to try and do is focus, because I used to be right in on, I've got to get a touch, and this is how I'm going to do it, and I'll be working that hard and end up spending all my tickets and it'll be gas, and he's having a field day because he's just running around holding on and doing whatever he likes. Whereas you've got to then change your mindset, right, I'm going to go and free up Koch, I'm going to go to his man, put a block on, he can run free, I'll have 2, and therefore we win versus me winning, you know. And when you change your mindset to that sort of place, you can actually find the benefits in, you know, team success versus individual glory. But it's hard to do as a young player because you're so focused on your own game in your first 50.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you learn tricks of the trade the more it happens to you. So if it hasn't happened to you for a while, then you sort of sometimes get bogged down. But from hearing and understanding of what Nick Dacos is like, I think he finished 2 or 3 in their time trial. So he's obviously enormously fit. He's probably hasn't got the size that he's going to eventually get to over the next few years. He's going to put on some muscle, so there might be an opportunity to try and lock him down. But in terms of the running game, it looks like he's got that covered. So I think if you're Nick Dacos, you don't want to get in wrestles, you don't want to be locked down, you're trying to get out in some open space.
He's obviously was a Carlton fan growing up. You were his favourite player, Mark. Is that what you see when you look at Nick Dacos? You think, gee, it's all happening together.
There's a lot of tricks. I used to catch up with him once a week and just talk about football. No, it's he was a Carlton supporter there for a little bit, but he's obviously well entrenched being a black and white and being an absolute superstar. But my son actually pulled his first footy card out and it was Nick Dacos, so it was pretty funny.
There you go. The voice of Mark Murphy alongside Brett Delidio, Matt Cledge, Corbin Minimas and Lauren Borden with you for Grandstand AFL Sunday. In the match at the Adelaide Oval, final quarter just getting underway. It's Port Adelaide leading by a point, 9-16-70 to Essendon 11-3-69. There is a call of that available under the ABC Listen app. Just look for the AFL Extra button, and we'll keep you across the enthralling final quarter there, taking place from the city of Churches. Zach Butters is hobbling from the field. So a couple of goals to Charlie Dixon, to Darcy Byrne-Jones, Sam Wiedemann, Kyle Langford in that match in which the Power lead by a point at the opening stages of the final term. Lance Franklin, 36 years of age. Every time we get to see him at the MCG, we think, well, we probably won't get to see him too many more times. He was the most targeted forward for Sydney last week in their match against GWS. On 14 occasions, they tried to go to him inside 50. What's the right balance there in terms of trying to make sure that Isaac Heaney, Logan McDonald, Tom Papley, the right matchup, you're delivering the ball inside 50 to the right one-on-one?
Oh, yeah, I think you nailed it, like to the right one-on-one and who's in the best spot to win the football. I've obviously never played with Buddy, but when you've played against him, he's such a huge figure, and the way in which he moves, he attracts the eyes of whoever's got the ball in their hands up the field. So you can understand that the balance is somewhat skewed whenever he's playing because he's that huge presence out there and the ball's likely going to go there. But if they're going to trouble Collingwood today, they need to have better balance going forward. And then that gives Buddy more of an opportunity to have 1v1s rather than coming in and going against an intercepting player like Darcy Moore will end up inevitably filling in the hole or coming across. So better balance from Sydney going forward is the key to winning today.
He needs 3 goals to join Doug Wade as the 4th most goals in AFL history. Will he do so today?
Yep.
Got him down for 3?
Oh. Yeah, not as confident.
Okay. Just talk about getting off the fence and giving inside.
Yeah.
Not as sure.
No, I'm just not as sure. I feel like Collingwood's defence is really good. He gets a good matchup today. But
I feel like he likes it on the ground and like coming in.
Yeah, he's not a high marking. He never has been. But every time I've said that about the great man, he tends to come out and kick 5 or 6. So don't be surprised if that's what he does. And if the Sydney are to win, he's probably going to need to do that today, to be honest.
Yep.
So the dark clouds have cleared, the floodlights are on here at the MCG, but the southern side of the MCG at least is getting a bit of sunlight poking through. The final member of our team sitting in the front row of the grandstand is Lauren Borden. Welcome to you, Lauren.
Thanks, Clinchy. Like you mentioned, it has cleared up down here, which is pretty nice considering when I was chatting to Don Pike not too long ago, it was basically raining sideways on us. So a little bit of sunshine, it means that those lights aren't doing too much at the moment, which is nice. There is quite a strong breeze, a bit of an Arctic wind coming down here at the moment. It's blowing towards the city end of the ground, and that's the side that Collingwood will be kicking towards in this first term. Jack Ginnivan and Aaron Francis, the subs, as we expected Ginnivan coming in to play that role. And Mason Cox also starting on the bench, got a few high fives and slaps on the back from physios as he makes his return.
Thanks, Lauren. As Nick Dacos is making his way to half-back, Luke Parker and Callum Mills just letting him know that he won't run around on his own all day today against the Sydney Swans. And the players are heading into position. Anyone tipping against Collingwood this afternoon?
No.
At the Adelaide Oval, the Bombers leading by a goal with 15 minutes still to go in the final quarter there. So a rematch of last year's preliminary final between Collingwood and the Sydney Swans back at the MCG for the first time in a decade. Can the Magpies return to the top of the AFL ladder? Here's Corbin Minimas to get us underway on ABC Sport.
Umpire Nick Foote with the yellow Sharon as he hammers it into the middle of the G, and away we go as Frampton wins the first hit out and the first clearance. Kicks to centre half forward. Adams got hands to it, can't complete the mark for Collingwood. Hand pass to side bottom, floats a high bomb inside 50, and Elliott lands in his lap as he races out the half forward. He's got it 48 metres out, pressed up against the boundary line.
It's nice slick hands there out of the midfield and just getting the ball forward, and Jamie Elliott in the right spot.
So Elliott, he's just stepping from the boundary. He's not confident, so just lays it up to Hoskin Elliott. Great leap, can't complete the mark. Spills down in front of Pendlebury on his return. Hurried handball under pressure. Warner grabs it for the Swans. Just got boot to ball. Picked up by Parker. Goes back by hand to Fox. He has a fumble. Elliott soccers through. Still a live footy forward pocket for the Pies. In the end, Parker just kicks it out of the defensive arc.
He's able to clear the congestion, but it's straight to the boundary. The umpire will say insufficient intent. And Collingwood will send it back inside 50 for a second time in the opening minute. Short to Steele side bottom. He marks 2 kicks out from goal. Collingwood heading to the city end in this opening term. Did he deliberately kick a point last week?
I think the umpires didn't understand it's wet conditions so far today, so these balls inevitably going to go out of bounds.
Kicks into Heaney, the man on the mark. Had to give the hand pass back to Noble. Jams a kick inside 50. Over the header to Goey. Lost a boot. He tries to knock it clear. Campbell over the top. Taylor Adams for Collingwood. Only as far as Parker. He ran into Jamie Elliott. A chance still for Sydney to clear as Fox jams it across his body. Hayward sits underneath. Darcy Moore rises.
Good hands.
Takes a great mark in greasy conditions.
Jordan Goey lost his boot. Nothing worse with wet deck, having a wet sock inside your boot for the next 3 quarters.
The Collingwood captain, and his dad's number 30 on his back. And Darcy Moore just lays it up at the top of the goal square. Johnson got his mitts around it and rips it down. What a start to his career he's had. Mid-season draft. Played 15 games now. And he's kicked the goal in all bar 2 of them. He's got a heavy contested mark here, top of the goal square for the first of the game.
Well, back-to-back, big contested marks, one from Darcy Moore and then one from Johnson there. 2 terrific players in the air, and we go back from 15 out directly in front to kick the first of the day.
It was only the semi in the prelim last year, didn't kick a goal in. Against the Swans today, he's got the first of the day. The mid-season recruit, his star keeps on rising. Collingwood 1 straight 6. Sydney have barely seen it. They're yet to score 3 minutes in on Grandstand AFL. Lauren Borden on the boundary.
An early concern for Sydney. Peter Adams came straight off the field after the opening centre bounce. He was favouring his left shoulder, went straight down into the room. So not good news early for the Swans ruckman.
An old coach of mine used to say, don't play athletics. And what I mean by that, Nick Blakey just tried to outrace Ash Johnson. Be physical with him. Don't allow, he's a good overhead mark. Don't allow him to get that run and jump. He can extend with the best of them, Johnson, and he showed right there that he can catch it above his head, above his height. Got to get a body on him. Don't allow him to get that fly.
it's a big loss if Peter Adams is out of this game. It just changes up their matchup straight away for Sydney.
Goal to the Bombers. They lead by a point. 12-5-77 to Port Adelaide 10-16-76. Opening goal here at the MCG, the way of the Pies. Frampton rises up, wins down the tap to Mitchell. Was taken high as he's got his kick inside 50. It's going to come back. Tom Mitchell will take the free kick in the middle of the MCG. Everyone's streamed forward, so interestingly Mills is into Nick Dacos off the ball as Tom Mitchell's waiting for the footy to be returned to him. Veers out to the left, drives it long inside 50, up towards Frampton. He's caught behind. And the mark's taken by Hayden McLean. He looks to work it out to right half back. Out to Goulden, who can work it up to Warner. He takes the mark at right half back.
Warner's just going to pass it back to Goulden, so it looks so hard. This young lad, he gets down there and receives the mark after kicking it to him originally. The 20-year-old, one of the youngest men out there, as he kicks beyond the wing. Hitting up, hands on it from McDonald, no mark. Spills down to Cedar, gets a hand pass forward for the Swans. Onto it, Papley, 60 out, hooks a kick inside 50. Heaney, juggled mark, Heaney's got it. 35 out, centre half forward for the Swans. There's a bit of sunshine, just breaks through the heavy cloud cover. He's got the yellow Sharon here, kicking to the punt road end.
Was the man you talked about leading to the start of the game when you asked Don Pike about Isaac Heaney, and this would be a terrific start for Sydney and for Isaac because he's been playing okay without being great, but it's a really important contested mark who, I think it was Bo McCreary who was lined up against him there, maybe coming from a wing. But really important start here for Isaac.
The All-Australian Isaac Heaney, first inside 50 of the day, a score but only just. As he sneaks in and behind, as you heard the laughter from the Collingwood fans. Just a cruel response as Sydney with a score, but a miscued drop punt from Isaac Heaney. Collingwood by 5 points after as many minutes.
Nick Dacos takes the kick in duties. He works it to left half back where Isaac Quaynor takes the mark. Collingwood by 5 points. Quaynor looks to drive it up long the southern wing. Puts it in the direction of Johnson. Up against Blakey. Johnson, arms outstretched, takes the mark. Quickly feeds a hand pass back to Nick Dacos. To his brother Josh. Links up with Pendlebury back in the Collingwood lineup. Out to Hoskin Elliott. They're downhill here. Hand pass to Frampton at 50. Inside 50. The big man centres it looking for side bottom. He's caught behind. It's spoiled away. Still a chance for Sydney as Mills is tackled. Ball spills clear. Sliding in is Elliott trying to knock it clear. Sydney under enormous pressure. Blakey with the hand pass to Heaney. He dribbles a kick that misses McLean. Little toe poke from Pendlebury. Goulden for Sydney. Picks it up. Hand pass to Haywood. And they're out of defence.
Haywood short kick to Big Budwa.
Why? Why boo?
Yeah, no idea.
Don't get it.
Absolute champion of the game. Game 346 for Lance Franklin. On his way up that goal kickers list. Could see him move another position higher today as Clinchy outlined in the preview into the top 5 as he goes back to Blakey. Blakey swings a kick to Braden Campbell. Marks at centre half back. Decides to play on straight away. The left footer miscues one. Touched on the way through by Noble. And McDonald keeps it going forward. Sockers it straight to Frampton. Runs into trouble. Got a kick away. Turns it over. Florent on the forward half turnover. Hand pass to Clark. Clark for Sydney's first. He kicks it. How about that for a boost? And they go straight to Nick Dacos to let him know about it. And his arch nemesis Ryan Clark kicks the Swans first. Sydney 1-1-7, Collingwood 1 straight 6, 7 minutes in, an early lead change. Brett Delidio, Mark Murphy.
Well, that's the matchup we talked about prior to the game, Lids, and Ryan Clark on straight to Nick Dacos. Nick Dacos had a couple of disposals in that last passage of play, but that's how one of the tags can really get under the skin of the opposition player. And
it
looks like we've drawn. Is there another free?
There's an all-out melee here at centre half forward as players are forgetting their 6-6-6 and just rushing to be part of this. Patley central to a lot of what was happening in there with Nick Dacos, and now players from every corner of the ground are rushing to centre half forward at the punt road end where Sydney are kicking to getting a scrap with obviously Dacos and Clark at the heart of it.
It's a Collingwood free kick which still Sidebottom now is aware of. He wants to try and take it and move it quickly. And now the melee has broken up and players are heading out. So Sidebottom straight down the middle. Kicks looking for Myercheck. On the bounce, it's Tom McCartan. Wrapped up by Myercheck. Clearing kick from Goulden is smothered. Josh Dacos throws the head back. Thought he was taken high. non-officiating umpire in the middle of the ground as he was, and it's on. Myercheck's in the middle of it all.
A few spot fires out here, Clinchy.
Oh, yeah.
Josh Dacos has the footy in his hands. 55 metres out from home. He goes bang to the goal mouth. It's rushed through by Nick Blakey. Through from line to score. 1-1-7 apiece in a match which has got it all in the opening 8 minutes.
Proper feeling in this. The Swans beat Collingwood twice last year. They haven't beaten Sydney under Craig McRae for all they've achieved. And, of course, it was the Swans that kept them out of the grand final last year. McInerney marks the kick out, gives it to Parker. Hot kick across the half-back flank as a turnover. Mitchell picks up for the Pies to Nick Dacos. Heads inside 50. Hoskin Elliott kicks the goal. And they all turn to Nick Dacos on the goal assist. The Collingwood players rush to him. The Pies are back in front. And a fiery opening through the first 9 minutes. In the preliminary final rematch, Collingwood 2-1-13, Sydney 1-1-7, 9 minutes in.
It's good there's a bit of heat in this because the direct assist was Nick Dacos who got the ball inside 50, and once the goal was kicked, I reckon it was Braden Maynard and Todd Mitchell ran straight to Clark and let him know all about it. So it's a great response from Nick Dacos, who no doubt's probably breathing pretty heavily at the moment, being spot fires for the last 3 or 4 minutes. But to be involved in that passage of play and give a direct assist to Will Hoskin Elliott is just the response that he was after.
I love the support from his teammates to go and let Ryan Clark know all about it.
At the Adelaide Oval, Port Adelaide leading by 7 points. Back in the middle, Mason Cox wins down the tap against McLean. It spills towards Errol Gordon, can't take it. Josh Dacos brought down. Warner for the Swans. Hand pass over the head of Gordon. Mitchell's over the top of it, brought down by Gordon. Ball spills clear. Warner can't break away from Hoskin Elliott. Jams on his boot towards Clark and Nick Dacos. He gets a little toe poke to Chris for Collingwood. Hand pass to Goey. Quaynor sidestep around Franklin. A centering ball to the back edge of the centre square. Noble races after it. He gathers, looks up the members wing, puts it up towards McCreary and Sidebottom. Sidebottom got a fist onto it. It gains 15 metres. McInerney races back, taps it to the support of Florent, gets the hand pass to Fox and Campbell, and they're away through McInerney, but not before Sidebottom lays the tackle. Umpire comes in and will ball it up at right half forward for the Pies, who lead by 6 points.
I know the Swans have come here with a real intent to be physical with Nick Dacos, but it's really invited the crowd, hasn't it? You can hear them getting really involved.
Great bit of theatre. It's not quite Kerry Jakovic, but it's a matchup everybody is awake to as Crisp from the stoppage gets a high ball to centre half forward. McCartan knocks it down to Campbell. Hurried kick out of the defensive arc, straight to Sidebottom. 60 from home, puts the Pies to the top of the goal square. Bounces off the shoulder of Blakey, tries to knock it on a second time. Parker had it, lost it. Hot ball, spills to Campbell. Squeeze the kick to centre half back. The big man there, McLean, for the Swans. Hand pass to Warner. His handball a turnover. Crisp had it, lost it. Now Parker to McInerney.
His hand pass missed Clark. Mason Cox gets involved. Back for Collingwood. Hand pass to Noble. His centering kick is over the head of Hoskin Elliott. And Errol Gordon takes the mark for the Sydney Swans. Turns and comes inboard. Florent marks at the defensive 50. Chips it to Parker. He can give the hand pass to Blakey, normally a good user. Up towards Hayward. He takes the mark. No, dropped it under the pressure of Noble. Gets the hand pass to McLean. Right down by McCleary. Ball spills clear, no whistle. McInerney inboard to a diving Chad Warner. Gets the hand pass forward to Rowbottom. On half forward for the Swans. Hand pass missed Blakey. Cox knocks it to Mitchell for Collingwood. To Nick Dacos. To DeGoey. Back to Mitchell. Through the middle of the MCG.
Crisp receives it. Tucks it under his arm. Kicks it. Out in the direction of Elliott. Had a hand on it. Deflects to Myercheck. Snaps. Myercheck puts it through. The turnover in the middle of the ground and the Pies cash in.
That looked like it go to the wrong side of the post there.
I thought it did, but
Myercheck a hand straight up.
Yeah. He was certainly trying to convince the umpire in the process we're going to go to the arc before confirmation.
Good luck.
Need the lasers on the posts.
Here we go.
He was confident though, Myercheck, wasn't he?
He was.
Hand straight up. We'd like to think that tells a bit of a story.
It'd be hard to overturn too without really significant evidence here.
By the way, in Adelaide, halfway through the last quarter, Port Adelaide led the Bombers by 13.
Kicked the last two through Connor Rosie and Junior Rioli.
And a great start. Whenever there's a big one-on-one matchup, and it's different here because it's a tagger versus a second-year star on the rise, but it just has a different edge to it, the way the crowd engages with the game.
It does, and the way in which both teams have supported their teammate has been great so far, with the celebration around Clark's goal initially and then Dacos' direct assist the following play.
Decision on scoreboard.
No spike, didn't hit the post. That's what they're checking, the decision to come. And after a bit of a delay, a goal. Collingwood have 3 of them. 3-1-19, Sydney 1-1-7. Pies by 12 points, 14 minutes in.
We saw the blueprint, the way in which Collingwood have played this year, with almost the over-handballing of Sydney, and drew the pressure, and then just on turnover just went bang, bang, bang straight out the back, and just a real great response there from Collingwood when it looked like Sydney were going to go inside 50.
You just hope that Sydney don't get caught up in this whole I've got to get physical with Nick Dacos. They forget that they're here to play a game of footy as well.
Well, it's a side who remains composed during this period, which is inevitably going to come out on top. You need to be physical, obviously, when it's your turn to go, but be composed with the football. Don't get caught up in all the rough and tumble. Still there to win the football.
Mark Murphy and Brett Delidio with you. Collingwood with 3 of the first 4 goals of the match. Frampton in the ruck up against McLean. Frampton taps it down to Pendlebury, throws a boot at it, doesn't clear the congestion. Parker for the Swans, tries to duck out of a tackle. He was taken high, pointed to his head, which the umpire realised the high contact was there. The footy will have to be returned to him. Goes short to Errol Gordon, who takes the mark on the southern wing. He looks for options inside 50, veers to the left and then pulls his kick beautifully to McLean, who marks at the edge of the centre square. Has Cunningham free at left half forward, but he hasn't spotted him. Looking more direct into the pocket, and Heaney leads out beautifully. Spotted him uncontested and takes the mark in the right forward pocket. He'll shoot on a 45-degree angle from 45 out.
Well done by the big ruckman there, Hayden McLean. Didn't rush. He had the ball about 65 out and just waited for his forwards to go to work, and a bit of a mismatch and miscommunication. Isaac Heaney finds himself in some space, and the big fella puts it down his throat.
An All-Australian last year, trying to find his best footy in 2023. Isaac Heaney comes in for the Swans second. It's not going to have the distance. Franklin's there, spoils it down, and Noble read it best front and centre for Collingwood. Kicks into McInerney. It spills towards the Swans' goal face. McDonald tries to slap it on. Here's a chance still for Sydney. Down low goes Sheether, trying to knock it clear. Collingwood come charging in. It's Markov who gets the hand pass to Pendlebury. Away to Hoskin Elliott. Now Crisp on left half back.
Crisp runs, carries, lifts a hand pass to the advantage of Markov. Kicks outside right boot to Myercheck. Campbell leaves his man, gets the spoil. Up to the wing. Parker's got it. Tackled, taken. Says ball up. Let's kick it downstairs. Lauren Borden.
Well, Laddams is back up after spending 10 minutes in the room. Had to get his right shoulder and neck checked out. He was just bumped into by Jordan to go in that first centre clearance, but he's back up and sitting on the front of the bench now.
Pies by 12 points, and the restart comes to Pendlebury of the Magpies. Hand pass to Josh Dacos. Kicks out to half forward. Elliott arriving late, got a hand on it close to the boundary line. Campbell keeps it alive for the Swans. Hand pass to Fox. Short kick to Mills on the back flank. Hand pass back to Fox. Hands it away to Goulden. It's a dead end. He's retreating. Goes back to Mills. Mills hand pass to Goulden. Hurried kick, a turnover.
It's taken by Pendlebury. Looks for options inside 50. Cox comes charging out. Florent got back for Sydney. Hand pass to Tom McCartan. Works it away to Parker and now to Cunningham. And looking for options out of defence is Lloyd as he works it to McInerney in the left back pocket. Through the middle of the ground he goes. Spots Mills. Takes the mark at the back edge of the centre square. Feints the hand pass, then the kick to Clark is turned over. As Murphy intercepts it for Collingwood. Wants to move it quickly. Hill's free. Inside 50. Rises with the flight. Can't take the mark as McInerney races back. Quick 1-2 between Fox and Hayward. Hand pass back to McInerney. His hand pass by Steele Sidebottom. Ricochets out of play. 50 metres out from Collingwood's goal. Out the city end. It's the Magpies leading by 12 points.
Just getting caught over possessing a bit at the moment, the Swans, aren't they? Collingwood play a far more direct game. Swans use the handball, doing a bit too much.
Frampton from the boundary throwing, wins the hit out and tries to soccer it forward at a fresh air shot. Pack form's just behind him. Says play on. McInerney trying to stand up with the footy. He's tackled and will do it all again. I used to work with Brad Weira, former Western Bulldogs Fremantle footballer in Perth. He used to have a theory that any more than 6 long sleeves, team couldn't win. 6 was the tipping point.
How many you got?
Collingwood had 6 when they ran out, but they're down to 5 now. As Tay Adams is back in the short sleeve. So from the stoppage, Rowbottom gets a high kick forward up to the wing. Heaney's got it. He's tackled and taken high. Darcy Moore, Tay Adams, Jamie Elliott, Bobby Hill, Bo McCreary and Jack Ginnivan as the sub. So he's got his warm-up top on over his long sleeves.
Heaney plays on. That's a great kick as he switches it to the southern wing. Goulden takes the mark. Inside 50 to Franklin. Good spoil by Darcy Moore, not conceding the free kick. And Noble sends it back up the southern wing towards Myercheck. He's outmanoeuvred. And the mark taken by Tom McCart for the Sydney Swans. In fact, it's Robbie Fox who took the intercepting mark and he switches it back to Cunningham. He marks between wing and half back on the southern side. Into Mills, who ran into the umpire. He didn't complete the mark. Little toe poke from Adams. Half past the hill. Can Collingwood make this an advantage? Dribbles it inside 50 to DeGoey. Couldn't take it cleanly. And Fox races back. Saves the day for the Swans and switches it out to Florent, who marks in the left back pocket.
Pokes the pass to Rowbottom. Has it at half-back for Sydney. Pies by 12 points, 3 goals to 1. Short kick to Heaney, made it tough for him. Can't complete the mark, knocked away by Maynard. Nick Dacos is onto it, he turns it over. Kicks it down to half-forward and Fox takes the sprawling mark. Probably Sydney's best on grand final day, Robbie Fox, and a team well beaten. Did a job on Jeremy Cameron, getting to a couple of goals. He's back to Florent and the switches on further out to Lloyd, who marks it right half-back. Pokes it out to the southern wing. This is Cunningham, who marks and plays on immediately.
As he runs the southern wing, looking for options at half forward, puts it in the direction of Heaney and Papley. Frampton gets a spoil down there. Heaney trying to run through. Papley trying to knock it away from Murphy. Spills to McLean. Half past to Heaney. Screws it towards the teeth of goal and it's across the face. And it just lands on the boundary line. So a boundary throw in the left forward pocket for the Swans at the punt road end. Collingwood leading by 12 points.
Big Bud just given Cunningham a little bit of feedback. He was on a huge searching lead and it would have just broken up the play. Hit it just to that hot spot, 50 to 70 out.
What do you reckon the feedback would have been?
Oh, please, mate, will you kick that to me? Can't imagine.
17-5, the inside 50s Collingwood's way as McLean tries to take it out of the ruck. Knocks it to Parker. Maynard with a little toe poke to Jack Crisp. Kicks into the middle of the ground. Awkward bouncing ball from Mills. It's swatted forward by Mason Cox. Charging out is Fox. He's tackled by Ash Johnson. It spills to McInerney. Hand pass to Blakey. Up to Franklin. Charges into side bottom. Rowbottom read it best. Hand pass back to Fox. Lost the footy at half forward. And Adams for Collingwood out in front of Pendlebury.
Pendlebury out after it as Goulden drops down to try and win the footy. Still a light ball on the wing. Blakey wrestles for it with Bobby Hill. Few other players come to lend a hand. Crisp stands up with the footy. Kick smothered. Ricochets to Josh Dacos. Centre half forward. Hand pass out in front of DeGoey. Now inside 50. Paddles it into the pocket. Still alive DeGoey. Clever. Sockers it to the top of the goal square. Clean pick up. Hoskin Elliott. Gives it to Myercheck. Shoots goalward, but he misses. She has the pick up from Hoskin Elliott. Never broke stride. A behind though for Myercheck.
Just watching a few players, it looks like a pretty taxing game so far. There's a lot of blokes with hands on their hips.
The Pies by 13, 21 minutes in.
Where it's quickly worked out a defence by Lloyd up to the southern wing. It's over the head of Heaney and it rolls out in front of Papley. And the Magpie defence with Murphy, Maynard and Nick Dacos there. A throw in on the southern wing. Collingwood leading by 13 points.
Feels like we got different weather from one end of the ground to the other. There's heavy sort of threatening dark clouds here and a bit of light rain falling. There's
sunny,
complete blue sky at the Sydney end of the ground, at the punt road end.
At the Adelaide Oval, Port Adelaide by 6 points over Essendon. We'll keep a close eye on that as well. Thrown back in, McLean wins down the tap. Over the top of it, Taylor Adams for Collingwood. Tackled by Parker. Umpire calls play on. Crisp with a hand pass to Pendlebury. Little toe poke in front of Hoskin Elliott. Tackled by Lloyd and brought to the ground. And no opportunity to get rid of it. And the umpire will ball it up between wing and half forward for the Pies.
Collingwood by 13 points. Frampton and McLean. Frampton first hands on the footy. McLean gets a second go at it as it hits the deck. Hand pass away to Parker. Kicks Sydney down the wing. Spoil comes from the back by Murphy. Lends a hand for Moore against Buddy. Buddy follows up with a crunching tackle on Josh Dacos. Hand pass into the centre square. Pack forms around Adams. Pendlebury saying, look, I'm being tackled over and even got the footy.
I think it was big Buddy Franklin who's had the one disposal and looks pretty angry about not being hit up. So he's come up to hit a body. Lay some body.
Umpire says, I'll have it. We got a ball up, outskirts of the centre square. Pendlebury tries to knock it away to Parker. He's taken high in the tackle from Josh Dacos. Free kick for Parker. Collingwood by 13, approaching quarter time.
Possession number 11 coming up for him as he works it over the top by a foot to McLean. It's been involved a bit early. Possession number 8 for him. Out wide to right half forward. Mills takes the mark. Inside 50. Heaney the target. clears he and Sheezer and goes out of play for a throw-in up against the right behind post. Punt road end, Sydney in attack. Collingwood leading by 13 points.
Looks like I've got Darcy Moore now going to Buddy. It was Brad Maynard at the start who had Buddy, so obviously happy to hand each other over Big Lance.
Toss back in, Swans in attack. McLean tries to drop it down to the bottom of his boot. Little toe poke from Nick Dacos out towards Pendlebury and Papley. And Papley with a shove from Maynard out of play. A couple of minutes to go at the Adelaide Oval. Port Adelaide still hanging on to a 6-point advantage. Jake Stringer with the last goal of the match. The Power with 3-2 in the final quarter.
Butter's back on the ground too, which is good. Clinchy mentioning earlier he came hobbling off at one point in that final term. 13 points, Collingwood's lead here from the boundary. Throwing Frampton, grabs it out of the right, kicks in the middle of the ground, hands on it from Mills, no mark. Spills through to Hoskin, Elliott, Lloyd's got him. Pack forms around him, says ball up. Middle of the G. Pete Laddams. Lauren Borden telling us earlier, came off in the opening moments with a shoulder complaint. They haven't used their sub, but we haven't seen a lot of him. Still on the pine at the moment as McLean here from the stoppage. Kicks inside 50 again for Sydney. Murphy whacks it away. Ricochets to Darcy Moore. Still of Collingwood. Hand pass to Noble. Comes out of the defensive arc. Good kick. And finds Hoskin Elliott. No marks in front of the Sydney interchange.
I'll watch the G. You watch Andrew Phillips having a shot for goal for the Bombers. Around the boundary line to Noble. Chance to put the Bombers level in the dying minute. John Noble has it in front of the Sydney bench. Gestures for Cox to lead boundary side. Sends it in that direction. Can the big American fly? He can. He's hard to stop. At 7 feet when he's out in front with his arms outstretched. Into the forward 50. He kicks for Ash Johnson. Not bad delivery. Fox went back with a flight. Gave away the free kick. With eyes not on the footy. And Ash Johnson with a chance to kick his second. And he go.
Kick looked excellent from the camera angle. I was watching.
Ollie Florent.
It was going through, and it was the Ollie Florent kick clinch. He just landed 3 metres short, got knocked through for a rush behind. Port by 5, final 30 seconds.
Ash Johnson kicked the opening goal of the match. He's kicked a goal in every game. His only multiples were on Anzac Day where he kicked a couple. From starting up against the gutter in the right forward pocket. Johnson crosses 50, shooting from 48 metres out. It's a nice deliberate across the face of goal though, and it's rushed through in the end. As rising is McLean to support Tom McCutton through for a minus score. Collingwood by 13 points at the 25-minute mark of the opening term. Make that 14.
Lauren Borden on the boundary.
Peter Laddams has finally come back on. So he only played the first 90 seconds before coming off. He's finally been allowed back on by doctors.
Thanks, Loz. They work it up to halfway to Swans. Campbell's with it. Goes back to Sheether by hand, who just chips the ball to half forward. Touched on the way through by McDonald. Reached more, though, with the Magpies. Big Polly Farmer sweeping hand pass up to Maynard. Hand pass away to Crisp. Kicks Collingwood to half forward. Kicks it too wide. It's out on the full. Free kick for the Swans. Full-time Clinchy. 5 in a row for Port Adelaide. So 12-20-92. They beat Essendon 13-9-87. So a 5-point win for Port Adelaide in the early game. What's that? 32 scoring shots to 22. A team with more of them won by 5.
And still to come, North and St Kilda from Docklands as McInerney sends it long around the southern wing. Murphy in from the side for Collingwood. Free kick for a hole. Non-officiating umpire says it's a Collingwood free kick. And it's going the way of Darcy Moore, who will now get 50.
Didn't see the one that was for.
No, just handed the ball back to his teammate rather than to
wrong player.
Darcy Moore.
He's a young bloke. You've got to know those things.
I think it might have been Peter Laddams, I think.
Oh, was it?
It's that there, right?
So he's
back onto the field and
it's had
a
bad start to the game. Big Peter Laddams straight off after the first bounce and been checked out for 20 minutes and then gives away a 50.
Horse would be pumped with that, wouldn't he?
I reckon he'd be pretty disappointed, yeah.
Gave away 2 bad 50-minute penalties last season against Port Adelaide. We didn't see him for a few weeks. And here's Darcy Moore, the Collingwood captain, with a rare chance to kick a goal from right on 50. Sets fly towards the goal mouth. He misses to the right-hand side. That would have brought the Magpie Army to life. Collingwood leading by 15 points with 3 of the first 4 goals of the match.
Interesting start to the game. The Swans sort of getting right into Nick Dacos after a goal for Ryan Clark early. They've had it over Collingwood in recent times with 2 wins from 2 starts last year, including that prelim final win. As Mills marks the kick out in the back pocket, goes to Florent, centre half back, and he swings it across the half back line to Harry Cunningham. Goes on a stroll immediately. Looks for McInerney on the wing. Missed him. Got to him on the bounce, and it slides out of play. A throw in right on halfway. Feels a little bit, though, roughing up Collingwood and the Magpies, where you think, don't park up that tree.
Yeah, don't poke the bear.
A 5-point win for Port Adelaide over Essendon. Collingwood by 15 here. As we tick towards quarter time, Frampton wins the hit out. Pendlebury a little soccer away to the advantage of Adams. Feeds a hand pass through to Frampton. He heads down to half forward. Myercheck and McCartan both there. Myercheck just moves McCartan aside, then left the footy behind. Crisp goes in to win it for the Magpies. Hand pass goes back to Mitchell. Hooks a kick inside 50. Tay Adams at the drop. No mark, but he's getting a free. And a little clumsy in the spoiling attempt from Harry Cunningham. And Tay Adams will get it 40 out left half forward.
Yeah, it was well done by Taylor Adams. He's fought his way to the front of the contest there. And as you said, Corby, Cunningham was just a little bit sloppy and just fell through his back after the initial spoil.
The umpire said it was for having an arm around, which
right
he did have there. His left arm after the right-hand spoil, which is probably pretty stiff. But
very stiff.
As long as they pay him all day, I haven't got an issue.
I'll be paying quite a few free kicks then.
Won't they?
Oh, yeah. Did you ever start in the long sleeves and change to the short sleeve? Was that
Never wore the long sleeve.
Never wore it.
Pipes are too big.
Tay Adams in the short sleeve now, missing that prelim last year. And that groin injury, of course, he misses out to the near side of behind. Nice chat with you, Clenchy, pre-game.
I was about to say, he doesn't strike me as a long sleeve type.
No.
The Giants boys used to say he used to be the heaviest sweater they had up there, so it surprises me that he put it on too. Everything was dripping after Tay had been around.
Brett Delinia with the inside information as Blakey with a long kick out of defence. Heaney read it best for the Swans. Breaks a noble tackle. Hand pass away to Goulden. Drives it up the members' wing. McDonald got underneath it. Cannon into him. Franklin works it forward to Robot and Mills on the break. Through the middle of the ground. One-on-one Laddams and Frampton. Laddams pulls in the one-hander. Read it best. And on the siren of quarter time, a chance to kick the Sydney Swans second.
Now, it was a big contested mark win. That one against Billy Frampton. Peter Laddams, he's obviously had a bit of an interrupted first quarter, but just used his body really well there and protected the space and threw out the left mitt to bring that one in.
Did look like it was going to get past him at one stage, but he pulled in the one-hander off the ground for a large period with a shoulder injury. A chance for Sydney second. Laddams comes in and sprays it to the left. And Billy Frampton and Brad Maynard are trying to come in to let him know about it, but Lance Franklin stands in their way and they'll head off in different directions. A fiery opening quarter in which Collingwood kicked 3 of the first 4 goals. Ryan Clark went to Nick Dacos, kept him quiet to just the 3 disposals for large parts of the quarter. And he was able to kick a goal himself, so the Magpies led him by 15 points at quarter time. Nick Dacos finishing with 7 disposals at the end of the opening quarter, with the Magpies leading by 15 points. For Collingwood, goals to Johnson, Hoskin Elliott and Myercheck. Meanwhile, for the Sydney Swans, their sole goal came through Ryan Clark. Great to have your company on Grandstand AFL on ABC Radio, ABC News Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Why get your news from the ABC News app?
Well, it's part of my daily routine. I check it on my phone when I stop for a break.
I can focus on local, national or world news. It's my choice.
I get an alert when something new comes in.
Love the live blogs. Follow them all day.
There's more than just headline stories, you know.
It's news that makes a difference.
Why do I get my news from the ABC News app?
I trust it.
I trust ABC News Online.
And it's free.
It's free.
For free news you can trust, download the ABC News app. Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Darcy Moore just lays it up to the top of the goal square. Johnson got his mitts around it and rips it down. He was only the semi in the prelim last year, didn't kick a goal in. Against the Swans today, he's got the first of the day. The mid-season recruit, his star keeps on rising. Frampton runs into trouble, got a kick away, turns it over. Florent on the forward half turnover, hand pass to Clark. Clark for Sydney's first, he kicks it. How about that for a boost? And they go straight to Nick Dacos to let him know about it. There's an all-out melee here at centre half forward as players are forgetting their 666 and just rushing to be part of this. Hatley central to a lot of what was happening.
Few spot fires out here, Clinchy.
Oh, yeah. Hot kick across half-back flank as a turnover. Mitchell picks up for the Pies to Nick Dacos. Heads inside 50. Oscar Elliott kicks the goal. And they all turn to Nick Dacos on the goal assist. The Collingwood players rush to him. The Pies are back in front. Chris receives it, tucks it under his arm, kicks it out in the direction of Elliott, had a hand on it, deflects to Myercheck, snaps, Myercheck puts it through. The turnover in the middle of the ground and the Pies cash in.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Sunday afternoon footy from the MCG, an opening quarter which had it all. The Magpies leading by 15 points, 3-5-23 to the Sydney Swans, 1-2-8. And Peter Adams with a bit of everything, including a behind after the quarter-time siren. And Nick Dacos getting the close attention of Ryan Clark. Matt Clinch at Corbin Middlemass calling the action. Lauren Borton down on the boundary. The thoughts of your experts, Brett Delidio and Mark Murphy.
It was a fiery start, wasn't it, Murph? It's good. Get the game up. It got me going out of my seat a little bit there. It got the crowd up and about, but I feel like it probably plays into the hands more so of Collingwood than it does the Swans, given the physicality. And they're focusing a little bit too much on... They got away from it later in that quarter, to be honest. You know, they weren't as...
It dies down after a while.
And that's it, because if you spend all your energy there, it's only one play. You've still got 17 other guys to get after it, don't you? So, look, it's... What's he had? Nick Dacos, 7 touches, and we're spending a bit more time on this than we probably need to. And, Ryan Clark's just had the 2, but he's at half back. Ryan Clark's at half forward, so he's doing a pretty good job, Nick Dacos, on keeping Ryan Clark quiet, isn't he?
Well, he's...
if you look at it that way.
If you look at it that way, but I think it's an interesting battle at the moment because I don't think... Well, Nick Dacos has had a direct score assist, which was great, but he probably hasn't had the impact that he usually has. But 7 touches, still getting the ball, but Ryan Clark on the hands kicked a goal. So
isn't that unfair though that we say, oh, he's not the same impact because we're used to him having 10, 11, 12. He's already
at 50% though. That's what I sort of meant.
Yeah, the one that he gave away, like he bombed one just here in front of us, where that's just feeling the pressure.
Yeah.
You know, of being someone's right beside you, so you think, oh, I've just got to get rid of it, and he kicks it straight away. But look, I think what I'm liking from the Pies so far is their evenness right across the board, their ability to chop each other out in terms of their mids. It's not reliant on one single player to get the job going for them. They all chip in and play their part. Their backline started really well. Darcy Moore, obviously. Murphy covers off perfectly. What I was impressed with and what allows Darcy Moore to be attacking is the work and hard work of Isaac Quainer. I watched him come from this wing here in front of us on the box and worked all the way across to centre half back to release Darcy Moore, allows him to roll up. And it's basically, it's the rolling zone that we played even when we were there. You just had to run hard off ball. If you didn't do that, your teammates couldn't go forward and defend.
Yeah, it just looks like their system's in a really good place at the moment, but
they trust each other, don't they?
It's been around the ball where they're winning the clearances 9-5 at the moment, Collingwood, and that's where they've been getting some of their scores from the stoppages. So they're certainly playing a better brand of football at the moment. So it's been a really physical, hard contest, been good to watch.
Inside 50 is 21-8, and yet Sydney took 3 marks inside 50 to Collingwood's 2. Isaac Heaney had 2 shots on goal. Couldn't capitalise on either.
Kick those is probably a little bit different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Collingwood by 15 points as we get underway in the second quarter. Frampton wins down the tap to Pendlebury. Squeeze the kick to half forward. Hoskin Elliott hit with speed. Hand pass to Mitchell. He's tackled immediately by Luke Parker. The umpire will ball it up inside the centre square, just short of half forward for the Magpies, heading to the punt road end in their second quarter. Laddams and Frampton tangle together. It's tapped down to Crisp. Squeeze the kick out to right half forward. Foot races on. Lloyd gets back first for Sydney. Hand pass chopped off by Hoskin Elliott. Although Goulden gives the hand pass away. Lloyd squeezes the kick to Parker. He marks it left half back. Around the southern wing to Haywood, who takes the mark in front of Darcy Moore, just to the left of the AFL logo. Decides to return back by foot. Spots up Fox, who can then work it back into the middle of the ground, and Callum Mills takes the mark.
What do you think of his first quarter, Lids?
Meanwhile, Lids has got a mouthful of donut in his mouth.
What a stitch up.
Mills kicks out.
You're a jerk, Kelvin.
Southern boundary line. As Cunningham just chips it short out to Haywood, who's got the footy here. Well, forward goes on a bit of a darting run. The kick comes inside the forward 50. Hands on him the way through from McLean. Spills to the top of the goal square. Side bottom For the Magpies, last line of defence, City end, gives it to Maynard. Maynard just kicks it straight down the pipe for the Magpies. Bouncing footy, outskirts of the centre square. McCartan has it, lost it in the tackle. Pack forms behind him. Myercheck stands up, trying to rip through a number of bodies. He's eventually taken down, and the ump says, I'll have it. Ball up on the members' wing. Collingwood by 15 points.
All done, Corbin. Better on back. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Who needs enemies when you got friends like that? Thrown up. Laddams and Frampton in a tangle. It spills away at Tom Mitchell, trying to link up with Sidebottom. Laddams tries to put his big body over it, clears a path for Warner, kicks inside 50, Darcy Moore in front of McLean, it bounces in front of the two, Moore back onto it for Collingwood, hand pass to Quaynor, wide for Murphy, he's shoved over the boundary line by Hayden McLean and a boundary throw in.
Good pressure then by the Swans, good hard fought victory at centre clearance there by Chad Warner, who is always really important for Sydney to get his hands on the football, but create another stoppage.
Thrown back in under the Ponsford stand. Sydney in attack. Frampton taps it down to Quaynor. Hand pass to Pendlebury towards Nick Dacos, who thought he was being held. It ricochets off Franklin and Crisp, and out of play for a boundary throw in. 50 metres out from the Sydney goal. Pies leading by 15 points.
Full time at Adelaide Oval. Port by 5, so they win 5 in a row. They're in the top 4 as it is at the moment. 12-20 to 13-9. 15-point lead for Collingwood here. Early second term, boundary throw in. Frampton wins it down. Ball comes to Laddams though. Hand pass for the Swans. Away to Heaney. Gives it to Florin. Kicks inside 50 and leaped it up. It's McDonald who takes the mark. Centre half forward, 35 out.
I really like the move of Ollie Florent back to half back. I feel that he adds something a little bit different there. He's not a huge body, but he adds so much run and dash. He's a super fit player. Just a quick scrubby kick forward, but every good forward playing in front. Big Logan McDonald just attacked that beautifully.
Of course, he did play the prelim last year, but left out a week later for Hayden McLean. Young Logan McDonald, their emerging force up front. He misses out to the left or behind. Interestingly, Isaac Heaney starts the game too. So been down, obviously, on his All-Australian year, Murph, but I think he had 3 shots from their first 5 inside 50s, kicked 1 behind and 2 shots that didn't score.
Yeah, a little scratchy. I think the important thing is getting your hands on the football, but for what we're accustomed to seeing from Isaac Heaney, it's a bit of a poor start in terms of his execution.
Nick Dacos brings Collingwood in, long towards Frampton, and Ash Johnson, who rises from behind to take the mark. Kick the opening of the match up towards Myercheck. Spoiled down by Parker. It spills to Sidebottom in front position. Getting out the back is Elliott. He kicks out in front of him. Fox offers chase. Elliott can't gather it cleanly. It trickles towards the boundary line in front of Blakey. Fox and Elliott across for a boundary throw in. Just quite hasn't had the same start, Jamie Elliott. 5 goals, 9 so far this season. Just the one behind in the last 2 matches in which he's played. The famous match winner against the Bombers late last year. This is thrown back into play. Frampton taps it down. Collingwood in attack. Parker was fallen into the back by Tom Mitchell, and Sydney will get a free kick in the right back pocket.
Started well around the contest this quarter. Sydney, no doubt, Horse would have come out and tried to fire up his troops in the midfield to get going, because that's an area of the game they were getting touched up in the first quarter.
Parker with the footy, and the switch back to the Lizard Blakey. He goes out wide to Lloyd, who just shields his eyes from the sun. Half back, majority of the ground in shadows. There's not a heap up ahead, so he just chips it short. That's what the Swans love to do, possession game. Maintain it in the back half as Blakey's got it and swings it all the way over to Robbie Fox. Right half back, slides up the side of his boot, misses Campbell and had to get to it on the half volley, and running out of room, it's out of bounds. The Pies force a neutral ball, a boundary throw in half forward. 5 minutes into the second term. Collingwood by 14 points, 3-5 to 1-3. Ryan Clark with the tagging duties on Nick Dacos. Kicked a goal himself in the opening 5 minutes of play, but it's been all Collingwood otherwise.
Shallow throw in. Laddams and Frampton spills away off Florent. Hand pass to Campbell. Lost it. DeGoey onto it. Snaps across his body and puts it through. Destructive DeGoey at his best. Gathering it with little room to move and jamming it onto his boot. The Magpies extend their lead. They're 4-5-29 to the Swans 1-3-9. 6 minutes gone, second term on ABC Sport.
Well, just when I thought that they'd cleaned up a bit of their stoppage work, Sydney, which they have actually started well in this quarter, that they just ran in waves. Then it was more just a hit on the Sydney opponent, where he just outbodied him. Jordan to go in, was just too strong and ran straight at the man and bobbled ball and then did the rest.
He's so much more damaging playing that mid-forward role, isn't he?
Yeah.
His ability to explode out a stoppage and give the Pies great drive, but then he's got that ability as well to be up front. He's such a bull. It's so hard to bring down, hard to tackle.
You get him up at a contest and just run a V-line straight towards goal and take everyone in your path, and that's exactly what he did there.
20-point lead for Collingwood, early stages, second term, and all of a sudden a few dangerous moments for the Swans as Tom Mitchell, a former Swan himself, kicks to centre-half forward for Collingwood. Flying for it, Myercheck, no mark, goes back, wins it again. Lost it in the tackle eventually. Socked forward by Nick Dacos, top of the goal square. Johnson overruns it. Elliott's coming to get Gordon. Wraps him up in the tackle. Says, I'll have it. Ball up, top of the goal square, punt right end.
Stiff not to get rewarded there. Looked like he took 2 or 3 steps and tried to avoid the tackle.
Tried to buy a free kick.
Top of the goal square for Collingwood. Frampton knocks it down to Hill. Hand pass to Mitchell. Can't take it. Bobby Hill has another go at it. Hand pass missed Taylor Adams. Sliding in row bottom for Sydney. Gives it to Clark. Tackle by Hill. Gets a hand pass to Goulden. Barrels the ball into the middle of the ground. A bouncy ball for Franklin and Murphy. Murphy got a toe poke onto it as Franklin charged through. It ricochets out on the members' wing. McInerney gathers. Hand pass to Warner. Cleverly pulls his kick to Clark. He marks between half forward and the 50. Hand pass to Papley on the run from 55. He misses to the right-hand side. He had eyes only for the big sticks. Couldn't quite steer it through. Collingwood leading by 19 points.
He certainly had eyes for the big sticks. Hayden McLean was there, arms out, asking for the football in a lot of space.
Noble brings it into Quaynor, long up to the wing. Cox competes, spills down to McCreery, bounces off one, stripped the second time by Warner, holding the ball. Tried to fight through the tackle, and Chad Warner will win it.
And nutmegged himself on the way through.
Yeah. Just for good measure. Here's Chad Warner. Of course, played a game with brother Corey earlier in the season back in Gather Round. He kicks to centre half forward, hands on it from McDonald. No mark, falls down to McLean doing the work of the Rover. Slick hands. McInerney feeds it through to Papley. Tight angle right forward pocket. Swings his kick across face of goal. Across the face of goal, and Errol Goulden marks in the opposite pocket. And the ump says, come with me, Errol, back on your line. He's about 2 steps in from the boundary line and is a left footer, and his left peg is close to the fence.
You could see him weighing up whether or not he was going to have a go at the right foot snap, and decided against it. Goes back for the stock standard drop punt.
Oh, Errol. In he comes. Misses. Near side. They've had their chances, the Swans, and the boy they've left some out there. Heaney's had 2 shots that didn't even score. They've kicked 1-5. Collingwood at the other end 4-5. We're 9.5 minutes into the second term, and the Pies lead it by 3 goals.
Can he judge that?
Yeah, bad kicking's bad football.
Nick Dacos brings Collingwood back into play, up towards Mason Cox. Blakey spalls it down. Josh Dacos front and centre. Tackle dispossessed. Rowbottom over the footy. Mitchell lays the tackle. And the umpire will ball it up 55 metres out from the Sydney goal. Swans in this second quarter with 5 inside 50s to 3. It's from the ball up. It comes the way of Isaac Quaynor for Collingwood. Hand pass out in front of McCreery. He's taken out of it as McInerney gives the hand pass to Laddams. To Warner on the members' wing. Now to Blakey. Almost brought down by Adams. Just gets the hand pass away in time. To Fox and now to McInerney by hand. Great vision inboard to Clark. Little fumble. Hand pass to Warner to Rowbottom. Hill coming the other way. Laid the bump rather than tackling. Long to Franklin. Up against 2. Sheether trying to get a boot onto it. And Markov in the end rushes it through for a minor score. The Swans had the outnumber, but they couldn't get the footy in the right hands. And through for a minor score. 4 behinds now in this second quarter. Collingwood with a goal. It's the Pies leading by 17 points.
Cool afternoon. We had rain earlier, but none at the moment, thankfully. 12 degrees in Melbourne. As Moore brings it into the back pocket for Markov. He goes long to Big Mason. Hands to it. It's going to be paid. His sports goggles on again today with the socks up. See, 60 Minutes premiere, is that tonight or tomorrow morning in the US?
Last week.
It's already happened. I'm sure it was good. As Cox goes down the wing, hands on it from Ryan Clark, falls through to Laddams, just taps it out to Rowbottom. Rowbottom tries to shoot a hand pass down the wing for the Swans. He comes back to him. As Dennis Cometti used to say, like an obedient dog, just underneath him on the bottom of that pack. We'll have the ball up on the wing. Collingwood by 17 points, 12 minutes into the second term.
I know you watch a lot of American TV, but that's probably a bridge too far.
Not 60 minutes, though.
The biggest revelation was that Craig McRae gets referred to as Greg every time he goes to the US. So he stopped correcting people. Quick kick out of the congestion from Scott Pendlebury, and Nick Blakey, the Lizard, takes the intercepting mark. Risky kick over the head of Papley. It's centre half back. Cunningham trying to make it work. Elliott provides good support for Noble, who could have been legged. And Quaynor doesn't want to take the advantage. So it comes back to Noble between wing and half forward. Kicks out wide laterally and spots Hoskin Elliott just inside the field of play, 65 metres out from home. He wants to work it over the top to Taylor Adams, who's probably still too far out. Right on 50 up against the boundary. Mason Cox is headed to the goal square. He's alongside Myercheck. He's going to come shorter than that. Inboard to Scott Pendlebury, who marks 45 metres out from goal. He's going to chip it over the top to Crisp. He just pulls in the mark despite Cunningham trying to charge in late to get a fist onto it.
Well, all bar one Sydney player standing inside that forward 50, and they still take 2 marks inside there.
Dare say John Longmire would be going off his head, because Taylor Adams never looked like he had that in him. He was looking for an option. Hit Scott Pendlebury, same thing again. Probably was going to have a shot from outside 50. And again, no Sydney player wouldn't go anywhere near a Collingwood forward.
196 consecutive games for Jack Crisp. Out to the right, shooting from 40 metres out. He pushes it across the face to the left-hand side, a minor score. Not the prettiest score sheet all of a sudden. Collingwood 4-6, Sydney 1-6. Magpies by 18 points.
Well, at one stage it was 3-1 to 1-1 when Myercheck kicked the fourth goal of the match. So Collingwood in that time have gone 1-5, and Sydney at the other end have kicked 0-5. Rather wayward. A long kick up to the wing here for the Swans. It's coming back though. Pendlebury taps it away to Hoskin Elliott. 70 metres out. Kicks for Myercheck. Hands on it, no mark. Spills through to Blakey, the Swans. Draws a defender. Hand pass away to Parker. Through centre half back. Kicks up the members' wing, pushed away by Murphy, but straight to Heaney. Swan still with it. Hand pass to McInerney, hands it to half forward for Cunningham, gives it back to McInerney, runs, carries, kicks to the top of the goal square. McDonald arriving late, no mark, right on the goal line, socket through. It's a goal. Cedar got his boot to it, and I think this is a major for the Sydney Swans after the scrap on the goal line, but not before a trip upstairs.
I don't know that he did. Corb.
Behind to check that he didn't get a kick on it.
It looked like he's flung a boot at it, and it just sort of fresh aired him.
Well, that's not good for the young lad, Mark Cedar, because he is a Category B rookie listed player, Lids.
Yep.
He's come out of the Sydney Academy, and the reason he's eligible for that because he has a background in
soccer.
And he had a chance to try and soccer his first goal in AFL footy, and he's missed it.
He's had 2 goes at it too, unfortunately.
In this angle, we can see this Sydney attacker kicks the ball over the goal line.
Hang on.
Oh, yeah, off his shin. He has sockered it.
He shinned it through, but it doesn't matter. You heard the call. It's in the back of the net. It's a goal. And now every Sydney player rushes to Mark Sheether to celebrate. And in the process, was it Hayden McLean who just ran straight into
Taylor
Adams. And so there's going to be a free kick back in the middle. So he bowled him over on the way through going to celebrate. And that's a dumb free kick going against the Swans. But it's a goal for young Mark Sheether in his second game. 4-6 to 2-6. Collingwood by 12. All of a sudden a 2-score game. 15 minutes into the second term.
First goal in AFL footy, a memorable one for all the reasons in which he got the confirmation on the big screen.
If you're from international and coming and watching your first game of AFL and seeing what's happened, then you saw 35 blokes all sprint to one side of the ground. It's like a race.
And we're back from the commercial, and Taylor Adams kicks in a robot on the man on the mark. No one in front of him. Hand pass to Franklin. Takes a bounce. It doesn't come back to him in the middle of the MCG. Maynard slides in. Wins it for Collingwood. Knocks it to Darcy Moore. Hand pass to Quaynor. Switches to halfback. And Noble takes the mark. He works it over the top by foot to Steele's side bottom. Lance Franklin with just about no one between him and the goals. Went for a bounce and it didn't come back. It would have been flying from 100 metres out.
Seen him do it before, Clinchy.
Maynard for the Pies has it at left half back. Collingwood by 12 points, up towards Frampton. Had to spoil it down with Florent in front. To go front centre for Collingwood. Half past to Sidebottom and left half forward members side. Back to Noble. Over the top to Crisp. Charging out the other way, McLean. And he fists it out of play for a boundary throw in front of the Swans bench. Collingwood 4-6-30. Sydney 2-6-18. The Swans had 1-4 in this second quarter to Collingwood's 1-1.
Why don't they have to at least start in the 6-6-6 when the free kick's paid?
Yep, it's a good question.
As you touched on, sort of everyone in one half of the ground. I would have thought even if they give him the footy in the middle and then everyone runs off, just a little quirk.
Yep.
Give away the free kick and you can put every player in the back half. Up to the wing go the Pies from the boundary. The Swans from the boundary throw-in. Pies win it back. Nick Dacos got it from Murphy. Kicks along the boundary line. Clever to Pendlebury. Hooks it inboard to the advantage of Mason Cox. He takes the mark. Tom McCartan, did he knock it out of his hands late? No, the umpire says in the marking contest. Cox wants to move it. Hands it to De Goey. Heads inside 50. Low bullet pass. And McInerney takes the intercept mark for Sydney. Game all of a sudden gone up a notch here. 12-point lead for Collingwood. Swans with the last goal. McInerney swings it out wide to Florent on the back flank for the Swans.
Who wants to come into the middle of the ground, but there's not a lot of options. Hand pass out in front of Parker. Gathers on the half volley. Back to Florent. To McInerney. Adams lays the tackle. They're under enormous pressure. Mills' hand pass. Back to Florent. Knocked on to Clark. Hand pass to Warner. Somehow got through the congestion as they run the gauntlet. He kicks up to half forward. Papley's free. He marks on 50. Franklin's free in the left forward pocket. He takes the mark. 5 metres in from the boundary. As we welcome listeners through South Australia and the Northern Territory to the MCG as Lance Franklin. He gave it to Tom Papley. He might have wanted that moment back as he misses to the left-hand side. And the Swans have booted 1-5 in this second quarter to Collingwood's 1-1. Magpies by 11 points. Matt Clinch, Corbin Minimas, Lauren Borden, Brett Delidio and Mark Murphy. Collingwood led by 15 points at quarter time. A goal apiece so far in this second quarter.
Bit of momentum for the Swans. Moore takes some ground from the kick out, goes long to Hill on the wing. Tried to take the sprawling mark, unsuccessful. Spills out to Sidebottom on the wing. His kick smothered. And losing track of it was Robbie Fox. Laid a nice smother. The ball ricochets into the second row. Boundary throw in right on the wing. Well, what have we missed here? Murph, there's a player down.
I reckon it is. Not sure what happened to him. He tried to smother maybe Darcy Moore.
Oh no. So Mark Shee, they're just in the hands of the trainer at the moment, a little slow to get back to his feet from the boundary throw in. Sydney win it here. Parker, hand pass away to McInerney, threads a hand pass to Mills, now to Warner. He gives it to Clark, and Clark back to Mills, back to Warner. All by hand, they get down to half forward, hand pass knocked down. Maynard does well, wins it back to Collingwood. Mitchell to Adams, hand pass to Pendlebury, now to Noble through the middle of the G.
He's got space at half forward, tries to put it out in front of Ash Johnson, but Blakey runs onto it. The Lizard is at full flight. Hand pass into the middle of the ground for Florent, back to Blakey, ran into Pendlebury. Had to shurry a hand pass out towards the middle of the G. McLean works it to Mills, kicks out wide to Parker, sliding on his knees. Takes the mark at left half forward. He looks inside the forward 50 and thinks about heading boundary side. Now he goes more direct to Hayward. Just as the Collingwood defence sagged off him, he had a couple of metres on Quainer. And pretty much directly in front, a chance for Will Hayward to kick the Sydney Swans' third goal of the match.
He's good to watch in full flight, the Lizard, isn't he? He gets up and goes.
Yeah.
Big frill-neck Lizard.
He almost had the speed bubbles up there.
He just takes off. I don't think there's a plan in place in his head, but he's just, as I'm going, I'm just making this up.
Looked like he was
and it works.
Run out of the runway at some stage. Here's Will Hayward. This is becoming a big kick for Sydney. Can someone strike truly? Comes in and hangs it out to the left. The opportunities are coming. They just can't capitalise. 1-6 in this second quarter. The Swans and Collingwood lead by 10 points. 20 minutes gone, second term.
Since their last goal, Sydney, they're 1 goal, 7 and 2 out on the full from their last 10 looks at the sticks. Maynard from the back pocket, long to Cox down the line, no mark, falls to Josh Dacos and he's out of play between wing and half forward for Sydney. Lauren Borden on the boundary.
Mark Sheether finally got off after limping off and trying to contest in some of those passages of play as he was running off. He's had to go straight down to the rooms too. It's a left leg issue, not sure if it's a knee or an ankle at the moment, but he's down in the rooms.
Thanks, Loz. Ginnivan and Francis, the two subs, neither used so far. As we close in on half-time, Frampton wins it down to Gully. Hand pass to Pendlebury, so smooth through traffic. Hand pass to Nick Dacos, feeds it to Mitchell. Sweeping hand pass to Elliott, 70 out. Goes up the left boot, tumbles a kick to half forward. Blakey hitting up, knocks it away to Campbell's advantage. Swans back with it. Short kick down the wing to Laddams. Hand pass to Clark under pressure, gives it to Mills.
Spots in the middle of the ground, Heaney, who takes the mark. He looks up towards half forward. They've got one out the back as McLean takes the mark. Can he get it all the way to Logan McDonald at the top of the goal square? This will be a certainty as he bangs it up to the second tier. Sydney finally strike through for their third goal of the match. The Swans 3-8-26, trailing Collingwood by 4 points, 4-6-30. And Logan McDonald with his first goal of the match. 22 minutes gone, second term on ABC Sport with Mark Murphy and Brett Delidio.
Well, finally some reward for effort there for Sydney. They've been all over Collingwood this quarter. Just the way in which they're strangling them. Usually a real important sign for Collingwood is their run and dash through the corridor and their gun and blazing sort of mode of using the football. But we've hardly really seen that this quarter. The Sydney Swans defensive zones really holding up strongly. And then they're forcing errors when Collingwood do get the ball the forward half of the ground, and well use of hands and foot through the corridor there by Sydney and finding one out the back.
They're coming off their man to defend really well. Blakey's doing an exceptional at the moment.
Yeah. Collingwood by 4, but Sydney with the last 2 goals in the game. Frampton in the middle, down to Warner. Hand pass knocked down by DeGoey. Spills to the wing. Here's Rowbottom for Sydney. Tackled, lost it. Tom Mitchell collects for the Pies. Kicks out to half forward. Bouncing footy in front of Cox and McCartan. McCartan works his way to the front, left the footy behind. Crisp wins it. Half forward for Collingwood. Hand pass to Hoskin Elliott. Kicks to the top of the goal square. Myercheck. Hands on it. No mark. Falls down to Mills. Gives it to Parker. Sweeping hand pass out wide.
He doesn't have really any options on the members' wings. They're trying to draw away Josh Dacos. Hand pass to Goulden, chips it up to Clark. He marks it right half back members' side for the Swans. Franklin's very short. He honours that lead. Barely 15 as he marks in front of the Swans bench. Barty Franklin spots Goulden with a laser, kicks towards him. Maynard comes in from the side. And Goulden dragged down the arm in the eyes of the umpire, and Braden Maynard will get the free kick. 23 minutes gone, second term. Collingwood 4-6-30 to the Swans 3-8-26. As Maynard sends it back up the members' wing towards Elliott, is outnumbered. Blakey brings it down towards Campbell. Mitchell tried to knock it out for Collingwood. Parker breaks the tackle. How strong. Hand pass into the middle of the ground for Blakey. He's dispossessed by Crisp. The ball stuck underneath the two of them. As Mitchell comes diving in for Collingwood as well. And the umpire will ball it up on the members' wing.
Parker just dismissing Dacos there, wasn't he?
Sort of like he was the guy bringing the force despite the fact he had the footy. Don't come tackle me. From the ball up, here's Goulden. Floats a kick to half forward for Sydney. Skids through to Murphy's. Tackled by McDonald. Got a hand pass out. Maynard puts his head over it. Scoops it out the back. Patley's lurking. Clever. Just paddles it to the advantage of Clark. His teammate. He's tackled. Lost it. Moore collects for Collingwood. Hand pass to Maynard. Goulden's got him. Ball jarred free. Here's Crisp against the boundary line. Kicks down the wing. Laddams hands to it. No mark. Loose footy to be won. Mills is there for Sydney. Gives it to McCartan. Hand pass back to Laddams. The lefty. Short kick to Clark. Marking again. Hand pass to Goulden on the wraparound. Kicks to centre half forward. Tough one on the half volley for McDonald. Hayward goes in, collects. He's drilled in a two-man tackle. And a ball up, centre half forward for the Swans, who have a bit of momentum here. They've kicked the last 2 goals. Collingwood by 4. Time on in the second term.
Dominate the inside 50s, 12-7. It's tossed in the air, Laddams and Frampton. Frampton down to Crisp. His kick is smothered for Collingwood. Heaney tries to charge in there, tackled by Markov. Spills the side bottom, kicks it in the middle of the ground. Mills lunging forward, couldn't gather. Tom McCartan reloads, sends him inside 50. McDonald the target. Heaney flies as well. At the back, Markov for Collingwood. Hand pass to Noble, pinched by Rowbottom. Hand pass to McLean. He sockers it through. Gets it past the goalkeeper, Braden Maynard, who's lunging and couldn't get a fingertip to it. We're going to go upstairs just to check. But that was incredibly clever from the 197cm Hayden McLean, who seemed the most unlikely to soccer a goal.
Review complete. Looking at this angle, we can see the ball crosses the back of the goal line.
Well, there's daylight between Maynard's hand and the ball. And that is a great goal from Hayden McLean, his first of the match. And the all clear is given on the big screen, and Sydney are in front.
What a piece of play by James Rowbottom. One of all, just to intercept the ball and palm the ball out in front of yourself, but then to gather. And there would have been 4 or 5 Collingwood players in front of him and the goal. And he underground left handball to the top of the square where Hayden's standing there by himself. And to kick that first time, one-touch football off the left foot. Just a great passage of play. They're finding the hard very easy at the moment, Sydney, and missing the easy ones. But that's an unbelievable goal and a couple of great solo efforts.
Sydney 4:8:32 to the Magpies 4:6:30. 26 minutes gone, second quarter. Third lead change of the match.
First one in the term. Sydney by a couple. As we close in on half-time. Laddams wins the head out. Pendlebury sockers it straight back to Laddams. Got a hand pass looking for Warner, missed him. Mitchell wins it for Collingwood. Hand pass to Adams. He was taken out by Gordon, who goes and wins the footy. Kicks to Big Barter. Hands on it from Franklin. No mark. Falls to Quaynor. Collingwood back the other way. Hand pass to Nick Dacos. He wanted Hoskin Elliott, who slips over. In the end, Lloyd able to take a relatively easy mark for the Bloods. He goes short to Warner. The old South Melbourne jumper on today for Sydney's trip to the MCG. Kicks to half forward. And what a mark from Will Haywood. He's so good overhead. Floating into the defender. Leaps up and plucks it up above his head in the greasy conditions. In front of Markov, he's got it left half forward, 35 out.
That was great courage as well. I think Nathan Murphy was coming flying in to intercept to support. So great courage and great technique to go back there with a flight.
He's going to hook the ball across his body, snapping from 40 metres out. Never looked like missing. Momentum entirely with the Swans. They've kicked 4 on the bounce, and their lead swells to 8 points. 5:8:38. Collingwood 4:6:30. 28 travelled, second term at the G.
It's such a weapon, isn't it, having those half forwards who can catch it overhead like that. Heaney's another one for the Swans. There's not enough of them, I don't think, in the AFL. Guys that, the 188, 190, ability to,
very Brett DeLito-esque.
There was a couple back in the day. The guys that can go forward and actually catch it and get on the scoreboard. I think if you could add that, and Will Haywood, if we can take that into the midfield and then still be able to go forward, you've just got such an all-round player, but they certainly know what they've got with Will Haywood up front. Great courage, as you spoke about, and great catch. Good finish as well.
As Corby mentioned, Sydney with the last 4 goals of the match to open up a 8-point advantage heading towards half-time. Laddam's beautiful tap. Worked it down to Parker. Hand pass to Warner. Straight to Franklin. Missed him. And sliding in, Darcy Moore takes the mark. Almost a textbook centre bounce clearance. As Moore has it 40 metres out from his defensive goal. Kicks to Pendlebury, who marks at the back edge of the centre square. This last week with that eye injury. Having been poked in the eye. Goes short to Tom Mitchell. Has it at right half back. A former Hawk who is now in business with Josh Giddey playing in the NBA. Managed to get Giddey down to the Magpies, so he's not only got him part of the books, but converted alliances as well. Now a Collingwood fan. They could have done with a big man in the ruck. Out wide to Quaynor, up towards Frampton, who marks uncontested. Middle of the southern wing.
Is there anything more NBA than that? My boy now plays for Collingwood, so I'm barracking for them. Don't worry about the old team I used to support. As Frampton heads down to half forward for Collingwood, and Myercheck takes the mark. 60 out right half forward. Swans by 6 points. Collingwood led the game by 20? Early stages of this quarter. Swans have kicked the last 4. Kicks to the hot spot. Heaney leaps up, got a fist on it, live footy, top of the goal square for the Pies. All racing back. Campbell grabs it, tackled out of bounds. McCreary came and got him, as he so often does in the forward 50, and will have a throw in. Forward pocket for Collingwood at the Punt Road end. 4-6 to 5-8. Swans by 8 points. Half-hour mark, second term.
Collingwood haven't kicked a goal since the 6-minute mark of the second quarter through Jordan Ngoe. Thrown back into play. Frampton and Laddams. Frampton taps it down, but straight to Parker of the Swans. A clearing kick towards Quaynor, who works happily underneath the footy. And the defender with a chance to shoot on goal just before half-time.
That was a good contested mark there by Isaac Quaynor. It's one of the things you hate when you're trying to get the ball quickly out of your defensive 50 and you throw the ball on the boot and you get a mark against you and ends up being a shot on goal. But just great use of the body, pushed Tom Papley underneath the footy and protected the space really well.
Only the 3 goals throughout his career in game 67. Isaac Quaynor from just inside 50, sets fly and it drags left. In the end, fails to score. Just as the siren sounds for half-time, the Sydney Swans leading by 8 points at the main break. 5-8-38 to the Pies 4-6-30. And in that second quarter, the Swans putting 4-6 to Collingwood's 1-1 after the Magpies led by 15 points at quarter time. For the Swans, goals to McLean, Clark, McDonald, Haywood and Sheezer. Meanwhile, for the Magpies, their goals have come through DeGoey, Hoskin, Elliott, Johnson and Myercheck. Half-time at the MCG, the Sydney Swans lead by 8 points. Earlier today it was Port Adelaide who prevailed by 5 points, 12-20-92 to the Bombers 13-9-87. Might bring you that Andrew Phillips shot late in the match, if nothing more than to torment Corby, as the Bombers could have drawn level, as it was Port Adelaide with another win. They're 5th on the trot, they're 4th on the AFL ladder. And coming up later on this afternoon in around 10 minutes time, North Melbourne and St Kilda from Docklands. There's no late changes there, with Charlie Lazaro and Jack Vitale, the subs. We'll take you there at the completion of this match from the MCG. The thoughts from Mark Murphy and Brett Delidio, with the Swans leading by 8 points at half-time.
Well, it was a really impressive second quarter then by Sydney. It was probably after the Jordan Agoe goal where they just got on top through the midfield, and their clearances, they were quite a bit down in that first quarter, Sydney, and they end up almost getting on an even kill. Collingwood still leading the clearances 18-15, but it was the efficiency going inside 50. I know they missed quite a few shots at goal, Sydney, in that second quarter. It wasn't until probably the last 5 or 6 minutes where they actually started to get them through the big sticks, but they end up going at 57% for their inside 50s, and I think before quarter time they were sitting at about 33%. So the efficiency of using the right balance method going forward, of not just getting it in quick but being diligent and using the short wherever it was, or going quick and getting it out the back, was really important for Sydney. But it's that medium-sized player which is really getting them at the moment. Lids, I know you brought it up throughout the call in that second quarter, but they're causing a few headaches in terms of their one-on-one contest down there, and Collingwood haven't been able to have that intercept mark and get their run and dash going. I know Dacos, he's had
6 in that. He had
6
7
disposals, and so he's had 13 disposals, but quite a few of them from kick-ins.
Yep.
So you think Ryan Clark's certainly getting the job done in terms of limiting the effectiveness of Nick Dacos at the moment. But yeah, they just haven't really got that run and dash going. Sydney's been really strong defensively, and their zone's been really important. McInerney's been terrific on a wing. I feel he was really important then with Chad Warner, who again was getting the ball at the contest and rushing the ball forward. He's so explosive out of the centre square bounce.
Yep.
But it's all their midfielders who are certainly right on top. Luke Parker's had the 21 disposals, Goulden 18, Warner 17, and McInerney 17 as well, as long as Callum Mills 15. So they're all getting a lot of the football and causing a few headaches for Craig McRae.
Well, they've had 50 more touches, the Swans, and that's a smashing in a half a footy, isn't it? So, but what has impressed me, Murph, and you touched on a little bit, their backline and their ability to come forward to defend. You know, we've seen Blakey do it. Fox has done it quite a bit. He's had the 17 touches himself, Fox. Blakey, we love the way he just attacks the game and goes. And he said, you know what, I'm sick of this chip. I'm just going to make something happen. And off he goes. And something generally happens as a result of it. But their ability to come forward and force Collingwood into that handball hustle style game where it's going forward but loopy forward. How many times have we seen that been knocked down, those handballs? So I think the Swans they've gone to school on that. They'd be really comfortable with where they're sitting in the game. Collingwood, it's a bit typical of their season a little bit, hasn't it? They show us in spits and spurts as to how good they are, but then they can sort of go to sleep for a little bit. So no doubt they'll come back, Collingwood, and they'll show us again why they are one of the league's best. But at the moment, they're just going is a bit like the rest of their year.
Yeah, well, their efficiency probably in the first quarter wasn't desired. They had 21 inside 50s, and they probably didn't get bang for buck, did they?
It almost flipped around, though, in that second quarter.
It did, yeah. So they probably got lucky in the end in terms of the way in which Sydney weren't able to capitalise in the forward part of that quarter, or the first half of that quarter. But, they're still obviously right amongst this game, but I feel Sydney could have been a little bit further in front had they made the more of their opportunities. But You made mention of Ollie Florent, who's coming off a half-back line, and Lloyd and Blakey. They're pretty aggressive, dashing half-back flankers who give them plenty of opportunities up the ground, which is really good to see.
8 of the 9 goals in the match have come from turnovers, which is a reflection of the pressure, but also trying to get the ball in the best ball users across half-back, as you touched on, Murph. So interesting to see with Sydney taking control in that second quarter. 4 goals, 6 to Collingwood's 1-1 as to who will take the momentum in the third term.
Are we done with the game?
News.
Yeah, just very quickly, a statement's just been released by Chris Fagan. So this is sort of breaking news coming through. Of course, he's central to what's going on with the Hawthorn racism investigation, which is seemingly without an end at the moment. So the statement reads in part, I wish to address recent articles published by some news organisations concerning potential mediation in relation to the Hawthorn investigation. He went on to say it was reported that I was unwilling to participate in mediation. This is wrong. I've never said that I would not participate. He said there's no such demands that are being communicated to me or my lawyer. It would be a matter of concern if that report concerning these demands is accurate. That's following an article on the 5th of May, which listed that there was a sequence of 18 demands of himself, Alistair Clarkson and Jason Burton as conditions of a potential mediation. He says, I haven't received anything to that to suggest that at this particular stage. I have not given up my right to take up my concerns in the appropriate forum. I've been involved in football coaching or other roles within football for approximately 40 years. I'm proud of my work and my conduct, and I stand behind it. So that's just part of the longer statement released by Chris Fagan earlier today, but just disputing a couple of those reports that he's not open to mediation on that front.
We were hoping to hear from him on the lead on Saturday after their win against the Blues, but unfortunately wasn't able to take place in that interview. They were about to board a flight as well. So we'll wait and hear whether Alistair Clarkson, who's North Melbourne side, is about to take the field against St Kilda, as to whether he will also be releasing a statement. Plenty of your thoughts coming through on the SMS, including one posing the question as to whether Brett Delidio is going to make a return to the footy field. We'll get to all that and more on the other side of the ABC News.
Hello, this is ABC News with David Rowlands. Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor says any cost of living relief offered in Tuesday's federal budget must not fuel inflation. The federal government has announced energy bill relief measures for 5.5 million households as part of a broad package of supports in the budget. Mr Taylor has told the ABC the budget must be assessed as a whole, but cash splashes risk worsening inflation.
Everyone is being hurt by inflation. The whole lot of us. And so if you want to help all Australians, all vulnerable Australians, not just the ones you can identify and the ones you're picking out, if you want to help all vulnerable Australians, you've got to get that inflation under control.
SA Premier Peter Malinowska says he can't release much detail, but has confirmed that many South Australian families will notice the concession on an upcoming electricity bill.
State government and the federal government now have an agreement. It's going to provide hundreds of thousands of families and households the biggest cost of living relief that's ever occurred in the history of the state. It's been an important negotiation. We wanted to make sure that those who need it most are the people that are eligible.
Officials in the United States say 8 people are being killed in the country's latest mass shooting. It occurred in the Texas city of Dallas, as the BBC's Jessica Parker reports.
It happened at a busy shopping complex called Allen Premium Outlets, north of Dallas. Police say that an officer was in the area on an unrelated call when he heard the gunshots and went on to kill the shooter. The authorities say they believe the gunman acted alone. 6 victims were found dead at the scene, while 2 people taken to hospital later died. 3 others are in critical surgery, while 4 more are in a stable condition. According to the Gun Violence Archive, a non-profit research database, there have now been 199 mass shootings in the US so far this year.
Saudi Arabia's foreign minister says he hopes talks between Sudan's warring parties will lead to the end of the conflict and the restoration of security and stability in the country. Envoys from the Sudanese army and its rival, the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, have met in the Saudi port city of Jeddah for initial negotiations for a humanitarian ceasefire. The talks are the first between the rival sides after 3 weeks of fierce fighting that's killed hundreds and displaced thousands. Back home in Tasmania, independent MLC Ruth Forrest has recorded the highest ever vote for an upper house candidate with 2 or more opponents. The Legislative Council member for Murchison received just over 71% of the vote, the highest since independent Hugh Hiscutt's 1989 results in the former West Devon electorate, according to election analyst Kevin Bonham. Shooters, Fishers and Farmers candidate Brenton Jones received 13%, while independents Cody Hutchison and Gatty Burnett received 10 and 3% respectively. Ms Forrest says she's humbled by the results.
Look, it was really gratifying to get such a really positive and record-breaking result. I'm eternally grateful and very humbled by the support from right around the community and around the electorate. I know I do visit regularly all areas.
Public buildings across Canberra were lit up in the royal colour purple overnight to celebrate the crowning of Australia's new head of state, King Charles. Around 150 people attended a public viewing of the coronation at Government House at Yarralumla overnight. Local Canberran Alex Bucher says he believes the royal family has an important role to play in Australia's governance.
It's our connection back to our history. It's our stability. It's our rock. Like, prime ministers come and go, parties come and go, but the royal family is a constant. And it's important to remember that and celebrate that.
The Bureau of Meteorology has issued a severe surf warning stretching more than half of the New South Wales coastline. Bridget Murphy reports.
The Bureau says a low-pressure system that has developed off the state's south coast is expected to deepen across the day, which could see storm-force winds offshore and an intense south to southwesterly flow in the water. Heavy seas, which could trigger coastal erosion, is possible overnight and into Monday morning between Merimbula on the south coast and Seal Rocks on the mid-north coast. Significant wave heights of 5 to 6 metres are possible, affecting south-facing coasts near Newcastle, Sydney, Wollongong, Batemans Bay, Maria Heads and Merimbula.
And authorities in Darwin have charged 2 men with drug offences after seizing 3 kilograms of cocaine and $250,000 in cash. Northern Territory Police say they began monitoring the movements of one of the men after a tip-off from New South Wales Police. It's alleged the men buried an empty drum in bushland near Darwin's Esplanade and later used the drum to store drugs and cash. Police say they seized further drugs and cash from a property in Howard Springs.
We are one.
But we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. We share a dream, and sing with one voice.
You're listening to ABC Radio.
You are, we are Australian. We are Australian.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Shallow throw in, Radhams and Frampton spills away on floor and hand pass to Campbell, lost it to Goey onto it, snaps across his body and puts it through. Destructive to go in his best.
McInerney runs, carries, kicks to the top of the goal square. McDonald arriving late, no mark, right on the goal line, sopping through. It's a goal. Cedar got his boot to it.
Sydney attacker kicks the ball.
Hang on.
Oh, yeah, off his shin. He has socketed it.
He shinned it through, but it doesn't matter. You heard the call. It's in the back of the net. It's a goal.
And the back mark off for Collingwood. Hand pass to Noble, pitched by Rowbottom. Hand pass to McLean. He suckers it through. Gets it past the goalkeeper, Brave Maynard, who's lunging and couldn't get a fingertip to it. And that is a great goal from Hayden McLean.
Warner kicks to half forward, and what a mark from Will Hayward. He's so good overhead. He's going to hook the ball across his body, snapping from 40 metres out. Never looked like missing. Momentum entirely with the Swans. They've kicked 4 on the bounce, and their lead swells to 8 points.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital,
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Half-time at the MCG, the Sydney Swans lead Collingwood by 8 points, 5-8-38 to the Pies, 4-6-30. After the Swans booted 4 goals to 1 in the second quarter, Collingwood led by 15 at the first break. Matt Clinch and Corbin Minimas calling the action. Lauren Borden down on the boundary. Brent Delidio and Mark Murphy are your experts on ABC Sport. Earlier today it was Port Adelaide with a 5th consecutive win. Winners by 5 points over the Bombers, 12-20-92 to Essendon, 13-9-87. A series of players booting 2 goals, including Rioli, Dixon and Burne-Jones for the winners. It went right down to the wire, in which Andrew Phillips had a shot to try and draw scores level with about a minute to go. Here's how our ABC Sport team called it.
Phillips kicking into the breeze, protected a little by the riverbank stand. The question is, does he have the distance? Phillips comes in, sends it high, doesn't have the distance, lands in the goal square. Port Adelaide try to punch it away. Instead, it goes through for the minor score. I don't think it was touched in the end. So it's a 5-point game in favour of the Power. 30 and a half minutes into the final quarter.
Burton in charge of bringing it back in. Clock against Essendon. Burton heads to the eastern side. He's looking for Dixon. Phillips underneath it, nearly claimed it. Spills to the back to Merritt. There's a whistle for a hold, and it's going Port Adelaide's way. That may just hand them the victory. The ball will be given to Charlie Dixon, and he'll kick back towards Marshall. They'll hold it up in defensive 50. 36,000, loving every second. Marshall goes long, up towards centre wing, to a pack. It bounces off the chest of Zerk Thatcher. Hine kicks it along the deck as far as Dixon. Port Adelaide hang on. They win a thriller at the Adelaide Oval to make it 5 in a row and move into the top 4 on the live ladder with St Kilda still to play. Port Adelaide did everything they could to possibly lose it with their inaccuracy, but they get over the line by 5 points over the Bombers.
Aaron Bryant and Neil Cross behind the microphone there. Port Adelaide kicked 3 goals to 2 in the final term, and Andrew Phillips almost able to drag the Bombers level but couldn't quite carry the distance. Zach Butter's got the 3 votes in the ABC Footballer of the Year, so the Power winners by 5 points at the match at Docklands has just gone underway. North Melbourne and St Kilda. It's a point apiece through the opening 5 minutes. We'll take you there at the completion of this match and join our commentary team at Docklands in the second half. It's Magic Round in the NRL taking place at the moment, round 10 of the National Rugby League competition. In the earlier match, it was the West Tigers who prevailed over St George, 18 points to 16. And in the middle match, it's North Queensland with the opening try leading 6-0 against the Sydney Roosters. And the final match of the weekend from Queensland takes place with the Gold Coast Titans taking on the Parramatta Eels. The Sydney Swans making their way back out onto the MCG. The Magpies not too far away. Don't forget, if you want to catch up on any of the audio across the weekend under the best of ABC Sport, wherever you get your podcasts from, that's where you can find Grandstand AFL Sunday with Corbin Middlemass, Mark Murphy and Mitch Cleary this weekend. They took the points, didn't he, against Murph in the Cheesy Game Show?
In a sweep. One for the good guys.
He's not giving me anything, Murph. He's...
Nah. I was disappointed.
Okay.
Always next week.
And the lead, of course, yesterday with Cameron Ling and Adam Romanascus, and Corbin and Ben every Monday and Thursday from 5 o'clock Eastern, or wherever you get your podcast from. Just search for the best of ABC Sport. Magpies make their way out onto the MCG. Scott Pendlebury with 18 disposals for the Pies. Luke Parker with 21. And Errol Goulden with 18 for the Sydney Swans. Nick Dacos hasn't had the impact in which we've become accustomed to. He is doing the kick-in duty, so has 13 disposals. And Tom from Tasmania on the SMS wants to ask the question, 0437 774 774. Should a defensive kick-in really count as a stat? That's coming from, Luke in Tasmania.
I wish they did back in the day.
I was going to say.
Instead of running the risk of having to kick it to yourself while someone was trying to put pressure on you, just run out of there. Plus, they've brought the mark back, 10 metres as well, so... I don't know. I think it's skewing statistics a little bit.
I think if you take a bounce, then that counts.
I reckon if you want it to count, and Phil Davis came up with this when he was telling me about it, you should have to kick it to yourself. If you want the stat, you should have to kick it to yourself. Otherwise, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
But then we see who the blokes are that really want the stat.
Isn't that a dying art too, the little kick to yourself? Remember, that was just commonplace. That's how you used to exit the goal square.
You had to.
Whereas nowadays, you can just step outside and go.
My image is Nathan Buckley, when he used to take the kick-ins, would always kick into himself and play on.
Smart.
There was a laydown was there that he'd always do it every time he was kicking in.
Crowds used to get that angry. He'd stand there and bark at you. You squib. I can't believe you're down there taking one of those. I was like, mate, it's free touch. I'm taking all of them.
And Rachel's a Tigers fan from Ballarat. She said, I heard a rumour in the Tigers rooms yesterday that Brett Delidio could be planning a comeback.
Oh, yeah? Well, if we get to the numbers like the Eagles are at the moment, then I might have to pull the boots on. But Yeah, maybe in the mascot outfit. That's about all as good as I can do at the moment.
She wants to know what you thought of Tim Taranto and his start to the season with the Tigers.
I think he's been pretty solid, hasn't he? We're marking his kicking pretty harshly at the moment. He's never been Nathan Buckley by foot. We're not talking about Bucks, but geez, he's working hard and getting plenty of the football.
He'd be leading their BNF probably by a street.
100%.
Players are in position. We're ready to go for the second half. Sydney leading by 8 points. Lauren Borden.
Sydney's just decided to make it sub last minute. Aaron Francis will be coming on now. It'll be Mark Sheether coming off. It was a problem with the left knee. Had it taped, then had the tape taken off at half time and couldn't really complete the warm-up, so he's off.
Thanks, Loz. Kicked his first goal in AFL footy earlier in the game, but that'll do for Sheether at half time. Underway we go. Oh, we're underway, and here we go to start the second half. And there's already a free kick as Errol Goulden's taken high. Sydney by 8 points. Kicks the centre half forward. Moore punches it away for Collingwood. Down into the path of Crisp, who just paddles it out in front of himself. Half back. There's a whistle. Everybody looks at the umpire, and the free's going to Nick Dacos. No, it's not. It's going to Jack Crisp. Hence the confusion. It's Collingwood's footy off the back flank. Very cool evening. Still at 12 degrees and getting down a little lower than that as the kick heads out wide, and Maynard next to the boundary line has it knocked away from him by McCartan. We'll have a boundary throw in underneath the Shane Warne stand. It's Sydney by 8 points. 5-8-38 Collingwood, 4-6-30. 60 seconds into the third term. The Swans have kicked the last 4 goals in the game after falling behind by 20 points earlier.
Thrown back in, Cox wins down the tap to Sidebottom, who gains territory by Sockering off the ground in front of Myerjack, brought down by Tom McCartan, taps it on to Warner, trying to find a way forward on half-back, hand pass to Mills, ran into a dead end, Nick Dacos lays the tackle, comes to brother Josh Dacos, vacant goalmouth, it slams into the bottom of the right goalpost. Golden opportunity for Collingwood for the first goal of the second half, just 90 seconds in. It's the Swans leading by 7 points.
Here goes the Lizard Blakey on a bit of a stroll out of the offensive goal square and heads wide to Heaney. 3 shots earlier for 1 behind and 2 which didn't score. In the opening 5, the first 5 inside 50s the Swans had. Kicks down the wing. McDonald flies for it, no mark. Clever from Murphy, just knocks it on to Hoskin Elliott. Collingwood work it out. Hand pass to Noble. Kicks it along the boundary line. Kicks it too wide. Out on the full.
First option's usually your best. And he had Ash Johnson, 10-15 metre little kick. Then puts it out of bounds on the full. Rightful earful after that, I reckon.
The Swans will bring it back in as Lloyd to Blakey, and the switch is on all the way out to half-back for Goulden.
Takes the mark at right half-back for the Sydney Swans, who put it 4 goals to 1 in that second quarter. Goulden looks up the southern wing, spots Mills. He takes the mark in front of Pendlebury. At right half-back. Pretty congested southern side of the ground, so he tries to find an option and kicks laterally. Good vision as he spots Clark. Not alongside Nick Dacos. He feeds the hand pass to Goulden, inboard to Papley. Big Mason Cox spoils it down. It spills to Mills, who gives the hand pass to Goulden. He's locked up by Sidebottom Cox. And the umpire will throw it up. On the SMS, Mick, the greater driver, is wondering whether you've ever considered coaching, Murph.
No, never considered coaching.
Not for Murph, Mick.
No.
As Cox wins down the tap. Non-officiating umpire says a hold. It's going to be a Collingwood free kick going the way of Jordan DeGoey.
DeGoey across the back edge of the centre square to Quaynor. Did some work with Vic Metro last year, Murph.
Yeah, no, it was good being involved with some of the young stars coming through, but interested in other areas.
Cool. Kicks to Hoskin Elliott, pulls it inboard to Johnson. Just left your imprint on Will Ashcroft and everybody else.
Did my bit.
That'll do. Johnson to centre half forward for Maynard. Swans with numbers back, pokes it out in front of that channel at half forward for Elliott. And in the black and white striped sleeves, he runs over to take it. Left half forward, he'll kick from just inside 50.
It was well done there by the Pies. They just used the ball pretty smartly from one side of the ground to the other, and a fair bit of space in the pocket, the half forward flank for Jamie Elliott to work his man up into and run into. So it was really smart and composed football.
This is his go from the set shot. Jamie Elliott, drop punt, straight. What a marksman he is. Collingwood within a point. 5-7 to 5-8. 4 minutes into the third term. Sydney by just 1.
It was a nice kick, as you said, Murph. Their ability to hit those targets under a bit of pressure. It's like they're marginally just getting there, weren't they? That Buddy Franklin almost cut off that one to Maynard, which allowed lots of space out the fat side of the ground for Jamie Elliott. But sometimes you get that ability to, when you've kicked, what did you say, 2 points in his last 2 games, you just need that goal to break the ice. He's had a couple of almost moments. The ball's just bounced the wrong way, hasn't sat up for him, it's been greasy. Those things, when you're in form, the ball sits up in your lap perfectly and you get those shots on goal. So hopefully that's a chance. He's still continuing to work hard. That's all he needs to do.
Jan on the SMS, please keep the North scores coming. It's the only way I can get across it. We haven't had a goal yet, so North Melbourne 3 behinds. The Saints 1. Back in the middle of the MCG, Adams gets the clearance, kicks towards Ash Johnson on the lead. Spoiled down by Blakey from behind. Side bottom front centre, tackled by Heaney, got the hand pass over his shoulder to Hoskin Elliott. High kick inside 50, Cox in from the side, can't take the mark. Little toe poke from Lloyd, out of play for the Sydney Swans. And a throw in the right forward pocket for the Pies under the Ponsford stand.
Who was that from off the SMS?
That was from Jan.
Jan, if you have a smartphone, you have a call to that game. ABC Listen App, just look for ABC AFL Extra. You can hear the full call.
Well, stay with us. We'll keep you across it. Sidebottom's hand pass didn't clear the congestion. Mills to Parker. Tackle by Nick Dacos. Drop the footy. No whistle. Errol Goulden can't clear it. He tries to have a second go at it. And there's a number of players around the footy, and the umpire will eventually ball it up in the right forward pocket for Collingwood. 40 metres out from their goal. Tossed in the air. Cox doing the ruck work against Laddams. Laddams wins it down to Mills. Got rid of Taylor Adams. Feeds the hand pass to Warner. Up to the wing over the head of McLean and Darcy Moore. Maynard picks it up for Collingwood. Turns on his left. Kicks inboard to DeGoey.
DeGoey, hand pass to Pendlebury. Through the middle of the G. Short kick to Crisp. Crisp out to half forward. Again that area vacant. Josh Dacos drops in the hole. Takes the mark at left half forward, and from the same spot, the Pies can go back and have a set shot to try and snatch back the lead.
You just see the difference that little drop-off kick of Pendlebury does to Crisp. All the Sydney defenders start to fold back thinking, this is going long. No, a little short one. Then it just opens up so much more space for Dacos to get on the end of it.
Josh Dacos on the set shot with a game-changing drop punt. It sails out to the right. Behind. Scores level. 5-8, 38 apiece. Sydney led by 8 points at half-time. It's been all Collingwood to start the third, which is 7 minutes old.
Blakey into Cunningham for the Sydney Swans. Kicks out to Lloyd, who marks in the right back pocket. Stepped off his line, so call to play on, but Myercheck doesn't charge at him. Hugs the boundary line with a kick to Errol Goulden. In on the 45. Spots up to Mills, sliding on his knees. Feeds the hand pass away to the run of Fox. Links up again with Goulden round the southern side. Haywood takes the mark. Hand pass to Franklin up on the wing. Round into Pendlebury. Hand pass missed the target of Haywood. He gathers again. Gives it back to Buddy. Into the middle of the ground. Cunningham all on his own. Hand pass to Blakey at full stride. Inside 50 down low for Papley. Can't pick it up on the half volley. Maynard right there with him. McCreary for Collingwood. Hand pass to Mitchell. Works it over the top to Nick Dacos.
Dacos in the middle of the G, kicks outside of the right boot, tumbling ball to Pendlebury between wing and half forward. Goulden comes to run him down, holding the ball. Free kick for Errol. And the Swans win possession back. And we don't see Pendlebury caught too often. As Goulden looks in the middle of the ground for Campbell, chips into the front half and Cox intercepts. For Collingwood, thought he was a much smaller, more agile man as he tried to move it on hurriedly to Maynard, put him under the pump, hand pass to Hoskin Elliott, back to Murphy, and he kicks out wide. For Adams, gets Collingwood into the slow play at half back.
Scores level at 5-8, 38 apiece as Adams works it up to Hoskin Elliott. Has it in front of the Sydney bench. Interestingly, the same height as Will Haywood, 186 centimetres, both stringy high marking targets. Kicks towards Cox and Myercheck. Neither could take the mark. Campbell with a hand pass to Goulden. His kick was smothered. Parker trying to clean it up with a hand pass to Tom McCartan. Brought down by Nick Dacos. Kicks up to the wing. Florent tries to knock it on as Hoskin Elliott missed it. Buddy knocks it down to Mills. Hand pass missed Clark. DeGoey in there for Collingwood. Hand pass into the middle of the MCG to Pendlebury. Out wide to Quaynor. He almost collides with Josh Dacos. They made a meal of it. Quaynor back onto his right hand side. High kick inside 50. Haywood underneath. In fact, it's Cunningham who takes the mark to his chest. And he bounces to his feet and kicks out to Warner, who marks it right half back.
Sydney yet to score in the third term, which is 9 minutes old. Scores level. Warner short to Florent. Lays a hand pass back to Warner. Hand pass to Mills, to Blakey. Slick hands, middle of the ground. Finds Parker. Hand pass back to Warner. Running through the middle of the G. Kicks out to left half forward for McDonald. Hugs it to his chest. He's got Papley short. Goes longer. Turns it over. Murphy takes the intercept mark in front of Francis. And wants to move it by hand as Pendlebury swings his kick to the back flank. And Josh Dacos skidding through on his knees. Takes the mark and just poke it away to Quaynor, still at half-back.
Just a bit of a let-off there for Sydney. They was really smart and used the ball really quickly, but then got it to about 50 or 60 out, then tried to rush themselves rather than just let the play out.
Quaynor sends it long up the southern wing. Myercheck is the target, can't take the mark. Fox for Sydney. Gets the hand pass back. Cunningham to Fox, to Blakey. Little stumble as Nick Dacos came charging at him. He squeezed a kick out to Warner, who marks on the southern wing. Works it up to Parker. Hand pass didn't quite link up with Fox. Elliott's working hard. Wins it back for Collingwood. Can't clear it to Sidebottom. Warner's hand pass to Florent. Brushes off the tackler. Hand pass to Parker. Out to a stationary Laddams. And Pendlebury picks it up for Collingwood. Hand pass to Mitchell. Swings onto his left-hand side. Works it forward to Elliott, who marks between wing and half forward.
Kick the only goal of the quarter so far. Elliott, low trajectory kick to the tallest man on the ground in Cox. Blakey wins it for Sydney. Hand pass to McInerney, hand pass to Mills. He swings it out to Campbell. Still on the back flank. One of their rising stars, Braden Campbell, with that neat left foot out to the wing and finds McDonald. Scores level. 11 gone, third term. Short kick inboard to Mills, and he stabs it short for Florent. And some late pressure from Murphy. Looks into the middle of the G. Florent finds Parker. Hand pass to the right of the dash of Blakey. Puts the Jets on. Kicks inside the forward arc. Hayward caught wrong-footed and Quaynor takes the intercept mark. In the defensive arc for Collingwood. Scores level. 11 gone, third term.
Tom McCartan and Goulden free at half forward, but when the Lizard had full flight, he missed both of them. Quaynor long out of defence up towards Elliott. Wedge between two Swans. Takes the mark. Impressive mark with Fox and Tom McCartan there. Left half back for the Magpies. Will work it over the top by foot. Finds still Sidebottom. Wants to move it by hand forward to Mitchell. Jammed up against the boundary. Sends it long towards Frampton. In a mismatch against Ollie Florent. Can't take the mark. Swans have the numbers. Campbell with a hand pass to Cunningham. Bumped as he got his kick away. Through the hands of Warner. Hand pass comes to Fox. Trying to find a way forward. Chips it to Robonham, who marks centre of the southern wing.
It's almost like a bit of old-fashioned circle work at the moment. That's where they're both getting opportunities to work the ball around, but then that inside 50 kick, that money kick that we like to talk about, just hasn't been hitting for either side.
Rowbottom out wide to McCartan. McCartan then just kicks along to a contest further down that southern wing. Parker stands in front of it and then traps the footy at ground level. Hand pass inboard. Turnover. Gave it up to Goey. To Mitchell. Hand pass to Elliott. Swings a handball under pressure to Pendlebury. He's outnumbered. Parker trying to wrestle it from him like tunnel ball. Just taps it between his legs to Laddams. Hand pass to Warner. Now to Rowbottom. Sydney go inside 50. Francis up and marking the former Bomber. Right half forward with Darcy Moore coming back at him. And Aaron Francis can have a look at the sticks here. Right half forward, 35 out.
It was a good strong mark in the end because Darcy Moore was coming at him and with speed. Just kept his eyes on the football and took the ball at the highest point. Nice solid contested mark.
Scores level. The Collingwood crowd starting to rally to try and put him off his kick. The right-footed drop punt. Misses to the near side. It's enough to give the Swans back the lead, but it's only a point. 5-9 to 5-8. 13 gone, third term.
Docklands, Dan Butler with the opening goal for the Saints. They're 1-5-11 to North Melbourne's 3 behinds. We'll take you there after this match. Noble's long kick to half back in the end. The two Swans spoiled each other as Franklin tries to break out of the tackle. Sydney still hang on to it as Lloyd kicks into the middle of the ground. Great vision. Spots up Parker. Hand pass around the back to Warner. Drives a kick inside 50. It may work out for Francis. Sets himself, got hands to it. Can't take the mark. Hayward trying to knock it on. McDonald threw a boot at it. Can't clear the congestion. Sidebottom for the Pies. Kick ricochets into Heaney. And goes back and out of play up against the right behind post. Sydney locked into attack at the punt road end.
Again, it was that rush play that you're talking about, Murph. There was no need probably to give off that handball from Parker to Warner. He just blazes, got up and under. Doesn't really give his forwards the best chance.
Sydney by 1, 14 gone, third term. Boundary throw in. Frampton for Collingwood wins it down. Hoskin Elliott collects, kicks outside of the right boot. Hayward leaping across, grabs it, says mark. Paid for Hayward. The play just continued on. The Collingwood players tried to tackle him and wrestle the ball free. And the umpire said, no, hang on, that was a clean mark. And Hayward's getting a shot at goal.
It's probably gone 14.5 metres. But on first glance, I thought it was a mark. Just stuck the one mid out. Two Collingwood players converging, so well done. Important kick.
Oh, yeah. Feels somewhat against the flow of play to start the quarter. Will Hayward on the set shot from straight in front. He misses wildly out to the left. He has not scored from straight in front. It's the third shot they've had that hasn't registered a score. So a 1 point lead for Sydney, 15 gone in the third.
I wouldn't think that's possible, would you? Throw it down to Loz and see what the wind's doing. I don't think it's that bad.
Darcy Moore long out of defence, up towards Mason Cox, couldn't take the mark, it spills to Frampton, they're on, kicks to McCreary at right half forward, Myercheck racing goalward, Elliott as well, puts it towards Elliott on the bounce, can he gather, racing back Errol Goulden, got there first, gets the hand pass away to Mills, Sydney win the battle, hand pass out to Cunningham, at right half back for the Swans, back to Goulden. What incredible running he had on display, looks into the middle of the MCG, Clark the target, juggles the mark, in front of Mitchell and Crisp. Wants to kick it laterally as Hayward can take the mark, middle of the southern stand wing. Lauren Borden on the boundary, tell us a bit about the breeze. Is there any?
Well, it's completely died down in the last couple of minutes. I can see that the flags are waving towards the broadcast side of the ground. It doesn't feel like that. Every now and then when it does pick up, it's favouring the City end of the ground, though.
Thanks, Loz. Goulden puts Sydney inside forward 50. Francis collects, hand pass to Heaney, kick smothered. Nice work, Murphy. Gets a neutral ball situation on the back of the 1%. We'll have a throw in here, 35 out from the Swans goal. There's no sun today. There's very little of that. 12 degrees. Wet this morning. Floodlights are on. The Swans lead it by a point. 16.5 gone in the third term. 5-9 to 5-8.
A couple of Pies fans with a banner which says, Josh, can I have your boots? Thrown back in. Frampton taps it down to Pendlebury. Hand pass to Josh Dacos. Works it to Murphy and now to Mitchell. Left back pocket for the Pies. Kicks up to the Shane stand win. Tom McCartan in a wrestle of strength with Myercheck. And Swan gave away the free kick. The defender had the arms around Myercheck's waist and the umpire spotted that. Brodie Myercheck has it on the defensive side of the great southern stand wing. Looks to drive it towards half forward. Johnson the target with Fox. Fox punches it down for the Swans. Mills front and centre. Hand pass to Cunningham to Florent. Casually around his body to Goulden, who just holds the ball aloft. Having taken it before it hit the turf at right half back.
That boots sign, that's a growing trend, isn't it? We're seeing that more and more.
Can I have your boots?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we could chuck in a bit of a please?
Well, maybe. Use your manners. That's what I'm trying to teach my young kids.
Not too many of them in there. It's Goulden. Across the half-back line to Florent. He finds McDonald, middle of the G. Kicks it long inside 50 and Heaney outnumbered. Quaynor gets across. Takes the intercept mark in front of the behind post. Goes on a bit of a stroll. Kicks to half-back. Moore, hands to it. Mark not paid. McInerney knocks it down. Chance for Mills under pressure. Hand pass. Couldn't get it to his intended target. Hoskin Elliott mops it up. Hand pass to Moore. Tumbles a kick close to the boundary line. And in the end, the Swans happy to see it out through Jake Lloyd. Throwing 60 out from the Sydney goal. Lauren Borden on the boundary.
Jack Ginnivan's just pulled up off the warm-up top. He's ready to come on. We're not sure who's coming off yet, but the paperwork has been filed for Ginnivan to come on.
Thanks, Loz. Sydney leading by a point. Frampton wins it down to the front. It's Roy Bottom who read it best. Ragdoll by Chris. Pound pass to Buddy. Hard against the boundary. Franklin towards half forward. Ricochets off Hayward. Out towards Nick Dacos. Hand pass to Adams. Here they go, Collingwood. Josh Dacos through the middle of the ground. Kicks to Myercheck. He's got Elliott free. Ran into a dead end. Campbell lays the tackle. Cunningham gets it to Tom McCartan. Out to half back. And Goulden takes the mark. Jamie Elliott wonders what could have been. Up to Francis on the southern wing. He turns and comes back inboard. Back to Errol Goulden.
He's run over a black cat on the way here, Jamie Elliott.
Yeah.
He's had some shocking luck today.
The whole forward 50 to himself, and Myercheck just ran out of time to get boot the ball.
Well, again, it was more just rushing the ball rather than taking the mark and then seeing Jamie Elliott who had 40 or 50 metres of space.
The Swans swing it from one wing to the other, so now Northern or Members side, McInerney with it. Foreshadows on the players starting to appear, so the floodlights taking over. McInerney says to hell with that, deciding to go long forward. He just chips it out wide to Campbell, who's standing in front of the bench. He's looking for a 50 as Jamie Elliott's coming off the ground behind him. Campbell says, let's switch it again. Back to Lloyd from one side of the centre square to the other for Fox. Short kick to Gordon. Just forward of the wing. Sydney lead the game by 1. Just a goal in the quarter so far, which is 20 minutes old. A floater inside the forward arc and a tough one to mark. Darcy Moore makes it look easy. Rips it down. The intercept mark for Collingwood at full back.
At Docklands quarter time, St Kilda 1-6-12 to the Kangaroos 4 behinds. Just the one goal coming through Dan Butler. So there you go, Jan, who's listening in. So she has no smartphone, no internet, no mobile. So the radio's her only companion. Side bottom at half back. Up towards Frampton, over his head, and Jack Ginnivan into the action. Takes the mark. Now Parker, did he stand over the mark?
That's smart.
Umpire says no as he just wrestles with Billy Frampton. Ginnivan sends it towards Mason Cox. He's dragged down. Spills the way of Adams. Kicks inside 50. Can Myercheck get on the end of it? Right forward pocket across the body. Great finish. On an afternoon where goals have been hard to come by. Brodie Myercheck with one from the top shelf. Deep in the right forward pocket under the Ponsford stand to put Collingwood back in front by 5 points. 6-8-44 to the Swans 5-9-39. The Magpies with 2 goals to none in this third term, which is now 21 minutes old.
Murph, you go.
It's been a bit of a hard watch the last 15, 20 minutes.
Hasn't it?
Sort of been crying out for someone with a bit of poise and class to get their hands on the football, and Brodie Myercheck then just ran onto a loose ball, and it never looked like missing as soon as it hit his boot. It's a pretty, not an incredible goal, but for what we've seen for the last 15, 20 minutes, looks like pretty hard to hit your skills out there, and that was just a beautiful kick on the snap inside 50.
First multiple goal kicker in the game, 4th lead change. Collingwood back up by 5. A rematch of last year's pulsating preliminary final. Back in the middle, Frampton wins the hit out. Papley runs onto it, runs into DeGoey. Just got it away to Laddams. Sydney get the centre break eventually. Buddy forced to spoil. Live footy, half forward for the Swans. Heaney knocks it back to Big Bud, trying to bend down to pick it up. He's out of room. And a throw in, 45 out from the Swans goal. Lauren Borden.
Just confirming it's Bobby Hill that's been taken off for Jack Ginnivan, who came on. Bobby Hill now sitting at the back of the bench, just spoke to those upstairs and then had to go and be subbed off.
Bobby Hill's day, just the 3 disposals, 1 kick so far from the restart. Frampton squeezes the kick, which slides off the boot, goes straight to Noble, who's clipped high. A free kick for the Pies on half back.
Noble looking for options around the members' wing. Drives it as far as he can up towards Ash Johnson. Fox worked his way to the front, spoils it down. Campbell back to Fox, tackled, and the ball goes out of play by Hoskin Elliott. And it'll be thrown in front of the 2 benches. Collingwood by 5 points. Mac Lynch, Corbin Middlemass, Lauren Borden, Brent Delidio, Mark Murphy with you for Sunday afternoon footy. I think around 60,000 into the MCG. Spills the way of Noble. This time not paid. Eventually he is. A tackle over the shoulder by Tom Papley. A matter of free kicks in a matter of minutes as he kicks wide to Hoskin Elliott, who marks boundary side on the members' wing.
I thought initially it was a good call not to reward the free, because he certainly drew the high himself, but the other officiating umpire thought differently.
Heads down to half forward, just on that outer corridor, slapped away from Johnson. Adams at the drop, wins possession, hand pass to Quaynor. Sees a hole, races through it, kicks hurriedly forward over the head of Myercheck, slides out of bounds. Boundary throw in here, right forward pocket for Collingwood. Ginnivan on the park, so 5 Collingwood players with long sleeves. Started with 6. Tay Adams had the change. In the opening 5 minutes from the boundary throw-in, Frampton wins it down to DeGoey. He's ushered out of play. We'll have a throw-in again alongside Collingwood's race, using the more western of the change rooms here at the MCG. You see both in that same flank or same pocket of the ground. Collingwood by 5.
Pies got out by 16 points in the opening quarter as Frampton taps it down to Crisp, who steps on goal. It's across the face. Just wide of Mason Cox in the goal square, and Nick Blakey Collingwood lead by 6 points, 6-9-45 to Sydney 5-9-39. 24 minutes gone, third term.
Gordon with 14 in the quarter. 3 inside 50s, 3 intercept possessions. Long kick here for the Swans, up to McLean, slips straight through his hands to Markov. His first touch for the quarter goes to the top of the goal square, and across comes Tom McCartan. Takes the intercept mark, flares it to the flank and finds McInerney at half-back.
He looks for options around the members' wing, spots up Chad Warner, who plays on around Hoskin, Elliott and Frampton. Hand pass to Lloyd, up the members' wing to Francis, who takes the mark. Has players free in the middle of the MCG. Florence, one of them, can switch it all the way across to the southern side, where Errol Goulden takes the mark. Possession number 33 to the top of the centre square, and McLean down low takes the mark. Collingwood have been allowed to push players back into defence, though.
It's a big day so far. 33.
Full three-quarter time. McLean just hacks it high inside 50. Have a go at that. Franklin from behind. I think Francis had a good piece of it in front. Turns to the umpire and says, how about that for a mark? And he eventually blows his whistle.
We only come down with it in one hand.
In the left mitt.
Not sure how he's marked that. So I think that's why the hesitant call from the umpire.
It's like Darcy Moore had first hands on that.
Yeah.
And he sort of dragged it down then. And Darcy's like, thought I had that.
Murphy was shoved out of it. Darcy Moore and Aaron Francis both had a piece of it as the Collingwood fans see it on the big screen. Right forward pocket, 45-degree angle, 30 metres out for Aaron Francis to draw, scores level. The opportunity goes begging once more. A couple of behinds the sub into the match in this second half, and Collingwood lead by 5 points. 6-9-45 to the Swans, 5-10-40. Approaching three-quarter time at the G.
He's playing his third game as a Swan. He's 0-3. Still yet to kick one for his new team. Darcy Moore on the kick out. Goes along to the wing. Oh, McCreary hit him on the back of the head, flying in the air. Spills down in front of the Pies, and Hoskin Elliott. And that'll do us. The bell to three-quarter time. It's the 2 goals kicked in the quarter, both of them going the way of Collingwood. We had the 4th lead change of the match in that third quarter, which didn't reach any great heights, but Collingwood wrestling back the lead in the game. 6-9-45, Sydney 5-10-40 to a 5-point advantage for Collingwood. The goal kickers Clinchy, Brodie Myercheck, the only man with multiple goals. He has 2. One for De Goey, Elliott, Hoskin Elliott and Johnson. While for the Sydney Swans, 1 each, all in the first half. McLean, Clark, McDonald, Hayward and Sheether, who was subbed out at early in that third term.
Earlier today was Port Adelaide winners by 5 points over Essendon, 12-20-92 to the Bombers, 13-9-87. The Power with 3 goals to 2 in the final term for their 5th consecutive win on the trot. And at Docklands, 3 minutes gone in the second quarter. It's the Saints leading by 8 points. They're 1-6-12 to North Melbourne, 4 behind. It's great to have your company on Grandstand AFL on ABC Radio, ABC News Radio, ABC Sport Digital, and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
What's the best thing in the world that's also on the ABC Listen app? The footy! This season, get your footy live and ad-free on the ABC Listen app. AFL, NRL, men's, women's. Whatever you fix, we've got you covered.
She's got it! Bye-bye! See you later!
Every goal, try, mark and tackle. Called by ABC Sports' expert commentary team. AFL and NRL, live and ad-free. Get it on the ABC Listen app.
Grandstand AFL.
Now streaming every match on the ABC Listen app.
Look for the AFL button.
Swans with numbers back, pokes it out in front of that channel at half forward for Elliott. And the black and white striped sleeves, he runs over to take it. This is his go from the set shot. Jamie Elliott, drop punt, straight. What a marksman he is. Collingwood within a point.
Gentleman sends it towards Mason Cox. He's dragged down, spills the way of Adams, kicks inside 50. Can Myercheck get on the end of it? Right forward pocket, across the body. Great finish. On an afternoon where goals have been hard to come by. Brodie Myercheck with one from the top shelf. Deep in the right forward pocket under the Foxford stand to put Collingwood back in front by 5 points.
The 2023 AFL season.
On radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Three-quarter time at the MCG. Collingwood leading by 5 points, 6-9-45 to the Swans, 5-10-40. Matt Clinch and Corbin Minimas calling the action. Lauren Borden down on the boundary. The thoughts of Mark Murphy and Brett Delidio with you on ABC Sport.
Well, it was an interesting quarter, Lids. We talked about it being a bit of circle work and some missed opportunities, and skills weren't probably at their highest throughout that quarter. But just looking at the uncontested possessions, I thought it was a misprint. Sydney have had 251 uncontested possessions to Collingwood's 141 in conditions which, I know it's not raining and it's not muddy, but it's still slippery. So perhaps they're overusing the football a little bit, Sydney. They're well down on inside 50s as well. They're 33 inside 50s for all that possession, whereas Collingwood have had their 42 inside 50s. So they're certainly more direct at the moment, but maybe that's the way in which Sydney are trying to bring Collingwood's midfield defence out and try and make them defend a little bit more as a team. But I just feel like the missed opportunities on both sides then were a little bit disappointing for two sides that we think are going to be pretty high up there this year. But the pressure's certainly right up there, so maybe that's just a result of the sort of referred pressure.
Yeah, and look, it's not a high tackling game where the numbers blow you away, but the pressure that's being applied, the frontal pressure, the forcing the player to cough the ball up has been really impressive, or to rush your kick, because you feel like that kick's on, but the pressure comes so quickly that then you just scrub it along the deck, or you try and get on. We saw Jamie Elliott miss out on 2 or 3 opportunities just through an inability to calm yourself and go back off your mark. This kick's still going to be there, but unfortunately just rushed a couple of times, missed out. Just want to highlight the work of young Errol Goulden. He's had 34 touches to three-quarter time. I know he had a game in the pre-season, Corb, I reckon, of 45. It was a huge ranking game, so he can do it. We've seen him do it, but 30 kicks out of 34, you don't often see that, nor see someone have 30 kicks. Going at 67%. Now, you'd let him off for a few, given that he's had 30 of them, but it'd take me the best part of 3 or 4 games to get 30 kicks, I reckon.
We've had a bit of a discussion about the Nick Dacos and Ryan Clark, Jules. So Nick Dacos has had the 15 disposals and he's just been blanketed for most of the day. So Sydney have no doubt done the job there so far, but we know how good a player Nick's been this year. So they'll certainly have to try and quell him in this last quarter to get over the line. But a great job so far by Ryan Clark.
Well, we saw how good he was in the last quarter a couple of weeks ago. He was huge, 2 goals and 7 or 8 touches. Can he do that to really solidify this 5-point lead at the moment for the Pies? But it'll be interesting to see.
It looks like he's going to start in the centre square bounce. So I think Ryan Clark hasn't been going into the centre square bounce, sort of been coming and tagging him off a wing when he has gone in there, which doesn't disrupt the Sydney method so far. So good job to three-quarter time by Ryan Clark. We know with these stars and this young star that Nick Dacos is, he doesn't need too much space to really hurt you. So it will be an interesting last quarter in that sense.
Luke Ryan had 30 kicks in round 1, which is the highest this season, so he's expected to go past that. And no player has had more than 37 kicks in a game since 1981.
Wow.
When Peter Featherby had 40. So it'll be, a first in a 40-something year event if Goulden's able to get to 37.
We thought we might have ended up here. Into the final term we go. Collingwood by 5 points. Parker gets the opening clearance. Squeeze the kick towards half forward. Pendlebury spoils it down. Heaney for the Swans. Hand pass away to Lloyd. Links up with Florin on the members wing. Sends it long towards Hayward, who lost Noble. Lunging forward, takes the mark. There's still 2 kicks out for goal for the Swans. Around the back to Florin. With full purchase on the right boot, sends it long towards Francis. Darcy Moore in front, spoils it down to Pendlebury. Hand pass over his shoulder to Murphy. Back to Darcy Moore. Hand pass to Maynard in the pocket to Quaynor, all under pressure. And eventually the hand pass is wide of Sidebottom. Goes out of play for a throw-in in the right forward pocket for the Swans. Probably the other thing that stood out was just Sydney's set shot kicking in that third quarter. Could have been in front.
They've only been outscored in 2 final quarters all year, the Magpies. Frampton palms it down to Mitchell. Hand pass away to Sidebottom. Kick smothered. Spills to Papley. Shoots a hand pass over his shoulder. Miss Clark goes back and gets it. Feeds a handball out to Cunningham. He gives it to Goulden, who's locked up straight away by Murphy. And a ball up on the 50-metre arc. It's the Swans forward 50 coming home to the city end. They did kick 4 unanswered, or the last 4 goals of that second term to this end of the ground as Goulden a hand pass here to Parker, kicks inside 50, and Quaynall's up, taking the intercept mark at fullback, lays it off to Nick Dacos.
Kicks it out to Noble, who marks in the left back pocket for the Pies. As Taylor Adams short hugs the boundary line with a kick to left half back. One of the Ponsford stand at the MCG. Not a lot of movement up further afield. So Frampton sets himself around the members' wing. He steers into that direction. Leads to the 40, almost a perfectly executed pass. Couldn't pull it in with his fingertips. Florent trying to sidestep Mitchell. Drives Sydney inside 50. Franklin up against Darcy Moore, but he's got it on the second grab. Out to the right, 45 metres out from goal. A relatively quiet afternoon for Lance Franklin. A chance to come up big in the final term, just his 9th disposal coming up.
Great step by Ollie Florent. The ability just to change the direction he was heading. This would have been a rush kick on his left. Would have got half the distance. Just steadied up, shrugged off that tackle. A few years ago, you would have put this in the book already for Big Bud.
Lance Franklin out to the right, looking to return Sydney to the lead. Franklin comes in, crosses 50, drags it to the right-hand side on a minor score. Just unable to capitalise like so many of his Swans forwards at the moment. Collingwood's lead is 4 points, 3 minutes gone, final term.
So still on just the lazy 1,054. Lance Franklin, career goals as Maynard on the kick out goes long up to the wing. Gee, the Swans flew early, both Fox and McCartan. Comes down to Myercheck and the Pies. Hand pass out to side bottom. Kicks Collingwood up over halfway. Wants Cox down at half forward. Caught in a tangle with Blanky. It'll sit for Ginnivan. Ginnivan shakes the tackle from McCartan and puts it on the chest of Elliott, who marks up left half forward. And this is his jam. How often do we see him kick him from here at both ends of the ground? Just leading onto the left half forward flank. And he'll have a set shot from about 40 out.
Well done, Jack Ginnivan. Took the contact and shrugged the tackle and then steadied up to deliver this ball inside 50, whereas other players today have whacked the ball on their boot and just tried to get it long. Smart, lowered the ice.
Big moment to set the tone to start the final term. His drop punt is out to the right. Oh. Big fly on the behind line. It's Myercheck who comes down with it. And the Swans, there's about 6 or 7 standing around looking at each other thinking, how did we allow that to happen?
Yeah, the coach killer, those ones. They can't stand when that happens, the coaches. It was a big ruck. What was he doing?
No, he's interchanging at that point in time.
Oh, no.
Myercheck for 3. He's got it. Pies with the first of the final term. And Sydney now 10 down without a goal in the second half. We're 5 minutes into the final term. Collingwood 7-9-51, Sydney 5-11-41.
It was, like you said, Murph, a great little kick from Jack Ginnivan. I reckon if that one missed Jamie Elliott, we said, no, that's it. I'm taking the jumper off. I'm walking off. I've been missed that many times today. I'm finished with this. But as you said, Corb, as well, he's usually pretty solid from there. Unfortunately, the ruckmen were interchanging at that point in time. Not a great time to be interchanging. Get it done after the goal's been kicked or the behind's gone through. Great competitive and staying in the game from Brodie Myercheck. Fantastic grab from 3 deep.
Brett Delidio with you on ABC Sport. Midway through the second quarter. St Kilda leading by 9 points, 1-9-15 to North Melbourne 6 behinds. As the bounce is recalled as it flared out to the left. Umpire to throw it up in the middle of the MCG. Laddams and Frampton. Laddams tries to take it out of the ruck. Jams it onto his boot, but to go he races back onto it. First there for Collingwood. Squeeze the kick out towards Adams. Coming the other way, McInerney. Big collision. Hoskin Elliott kept his feet. Nick Dacos was held when he didn't have the footy. And Taylor Adams is a bit worse aware as he slowly gets to his feet with a massive corky. Nick Dacos takes the free kick into the middle of the ground for Pendlebury. He's at the edge of the centre square. Still 2 kicks out from goal. Frampton's leading into the pocket, puts it into his direction, takes the mark. Just stood in front of Blakey, who couldn't rise to get a fist to it. And that was a slow executed set play.
Yeah, it was a good identification of the mismatch of Frampton on Campbell. But I reckon he also had, if Frampton wasn't there or wasn't able to get separation, Ash Johnson had the jump on Blakey again. was a great little kick to the pocket, wasn't it?
Even the detail of understanding the mismatch, but putting it over the back of his right shoulder, so it was
like
easy for him just to hold the space.
Traded for a future third-round pick. Billy Frampton in the left forward pocket. He hangs it out to the right and misses. Sydney fans take a deep breath. It's still 11 points Collingwood's way. 6 minutes gone, final term.
Kicked 4 goals in 13 minutes, Sydney, to end the second term. Haven't kicked one since. Last 3 of the game, all to the Magpies. Up by 11. As Blakey goes on a stroll and then has to kick to a one-on-one. McLean forced just to bring it to ground for Sydney, but Josh Dacos there to brother Nick. Somehow squeezed the kick out in the Warner tackle. Gets it inside 50. Untimed bounce for Blakey. Wants the safety of the boundary line. Finds it. Mum says spin it in. Right forward pocket for Collingwood. 11-point lead for the Magpies. They've lost only twice, leading at three-quarter time under Craig McRae. He called that earlier collision clinchy, and Tay Adams just now coming towards the bench. It's a warm round of applause from the boundary throwing. Ginnivan, a smother, follows up, grabs it through the head back, wanted a free, up not buying it. McLean, hand pass out to Gordon, kicks to half-back, to going with the intercept. Markup says play on. He's tackled, it was touched off the boot. We're having a ball up half-forward for Collingwood. Gee, a couple of chances go begging for the Magpies.
Crowd see it on the replay. Thrown up. Frampton wins down the tap against McLean to Lloyd. Tackled by Ginnivan. Warner's hand pass straight to Frampton inside 50 to Myercheck. Wrestling with Tom McCartan. Went to ground. Myercheck can't get a boot to it. There's the wrestle with Nick Blakey getting back. And now they're into each other. The umpire is looking for a review just to make sure.
I think it got touched.
Touched it.
I'm not sure it did it?
No.
So Frampton's flying shot on goal could have cleared the pack and bounced through.
Umpire's call is a goal. Please make sure it wasn't touched.
I think Frampton will hope that this is a goal, because he had Josh Dacos on his outside screaming for it, had an easy access to it. Decided to go himself. You get away with a fair bit in the goal square, can't you, when you're wrestling or the ball's going through.
So from 52 metres out.
Not touched off the kick.
Myercheck was wrestling at the top of the goal square, race back, and we're just seeing whether it touched Tom McCartan on the way through.
You can't see it.
That angle provides nothing. Now we've got the behind the goals camera.
No.
Doesn't look like it.
Crowd likes it.
So with each camera angle, Collingwood are trying to convince the Arc that there is no touch onto it.
Review complete. Looking at this angle, there is insufficient evidence to determine whether the ball was touched.
Billy Frampton is on the board, having cleared the pack in the goal square. And Collingwood extend their lead with the first 2 goals of the final term. They've kicked the last 4 goals of the match. As umpires score, umpires call on the big screen. Frampton's on the bench as the Arc finally makes the decision. And it gets the encouragement for his teammates sitting alongside him. That's as unique as it comes. Nick Dacos with a rub of the head. And Billy Frampton has a goal when he's not even on the field. Collingwood by 17 points. 8-10-58 to Sydney 5-11-41. And the Swans are going to be chasing the game, trailing by 17 points now.
Probably the first time someone's kicked a goal and high-fived the coach.
Certainly since the captain coach days.
Get around him.
Yeah, that's our modern footballers. That score review, and the goal kickers celebrating on the pine. Gee, a lot to do for Sydney. They've only kicked 5 today, and they kicked 4 of them in a 13-minute burst. It's been a problem for them all season. We saw it in the game against Geelong as well, with the scoring just dried up for large periods. It's happened again today. Crooked bounce. We'll recall that in the middle. The other game, by the way, at Docklands was a bit of a hard watch. St Kilda 3-9, North Melbourne 0-6. So a 21-point lead for St Kilda there, 4 to go before half-time. Hurried kick forward for the Magpies. Tom Mitchell jams it on his boot, bouncing footy, full forward, sits for Ginnivan. Ginnivan pops it through. Big game, Guinea. The goal from the top of the goal square. A little chest bump to his direct opponent as well. And the Magpies are out to a new game high. It's Collingwood by 23. 12 gone in the final term.
Well, we talk about the power and strength of Jordan De Goey, and that was on show just then, out of the middle. Ability to get his hands free. Tom Mitchell just jammed it on the boot. Got a great contest, and Jack Ginnivan, right place, right time. He's just a crafty forward, isn't he? His ability to be in the right spot, right time. And a nice, clever little finish. Good little sub to come on.
Yeah.
Come on and have some real impact. Working back from the top of the 50.
It was great work rate because he was at the top of the 50 and watched the ball sail in and went past a pair or two, just tracked the ball really well and got front and centre beautifully, and that's his trick. He's always at the right spot at the right time.
7th individual goal kicker for the Pies. They've kicked the last 5 out to a game high 23 points. To go, he somehow hacked it over his shoulder to get him an inside 50. Elliott knocks it down in front of himself. Fox lost his footing. Elliott couldn't get after it. And Rowbottom for the Swans, trying to break away from McCreery. Kicks up to Franklin, who marks all the way at right half back for the Swans. Members side wants to try and be creative by foot, but there's not a lot on offer. So call to play on. Elliott charges at him. Kicks towards Rowbottom and McLean. Big Hayden McLean puts a boot in there. Socks it out to Hayward. Rowbottom run down by Chris. Holding the footy. Collingwood will take it back on the members' wing, leading by 23 points.
No greater feeling than that. The bloke's looking upfield and he's got no idea you're about to run him down. Just got to make sure you don't fall on his back. Put a saddle on him.
He's crisp. Down to half forward for Collingwood and skidding through. McLean takes the intercept mark. Imagine being able to tell people in 40 years' time, I saw Lance Franklin play at the MCG. And people say, what was that like? And you say, I booed him all day.
Yeah.
But why on earth would you possibly do that? Came 346 for an absolute champion, and they've got stuck into him from start to finish. As McLean goes short to Mills. Collingwood by a game high 23. As Mills just kicks off a single step down to Franklin at half forward. Cox goes over the back and spoils. Down to Moore. Hand pass to Maynard. His hand pass ended up with McDonald. He coughs it up. Collingwood win it back. Mitchell to Josh Dacos. Hand pass to Markov, and he retreats to Murphy at fullback.
Mark's 30 metres out from his defensive goal at the City end. Nathan Murphy has Maynard and Darcy Moore offering options. Goes to the ladder. Collingwood captain in the long sleeves takes the mark. And the intensity in which the game started in, there's not a lot of movement, so drives it up to the members. We got Johnson with a big fly before acceptances, and McLean takes the mark. Just nudging Mason Cox underneath it. Comes inboard to Campbell, who marks on the AFL logo. Wheels onto his left-hand side, sends it out to the southern wing, where Cunningham takes the mark. So they move the magnets, but not really have an avenue to move forward. Wider still to McInerney. And now up to Ollie Florin, who marks it left half forward. Still 2 kicks out for goal for the Swans. Veers out to the right. Kicks inside 50. Hayward up, almost took the mark, couldn't complete it. Pendlebury hand passes to Sidebottom, can't get a boot to it. Clark for the Swans. Hand pass out in front of McDonald. Ricochets away from him. Sidebottom back to Noble. Little fumble under the pressure of Papley, who takes back the footy. Sidebottom's tackle was over the shoulder. Tom Papley a couple of metres in from the boundary in the left forward pocket. Will have the shot on goal.
Done a pretty good job on Tom Papley all day today. Haven't sided him a whole lot. Spent a little bit of time on ball. Not the normal impact we've seen from Tom.
Just the 8 disposals and 2 behinds for Tom Papley. From right on 50, he veers out to the right, strikes it pretty well. Steers it straight through the middle. Sydney's first goal of the second half. And their energiser tries to bring them to life. Collingwood's lead is 17 points at the 15-minute mark of the final term. 9-10-64 to the Swans, 6-11-47.
Well, you're right, Clinchy. He's certainly the energiser, and it was either him or Buddy that Sydney needed to kick a goal from and get them going, because they've sort of almost run out a bit of puff at the moment. They haven't really had too much of a look in this quarter. Collingwood have been all over them. There's still plenty of time left in this game if they're good enough. We saw in the second quarter when they went bang, 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 bang and kicked those quick 4 or 5 goals. So they've certainly got the ability to do it, Sydney, but they need to get this centre clearance and get the ball forward. They give their forwards first opportunity at it.
Kick 6, of course, in that second half against Richmond back in gather round. Tom Papley, very few players in the competition that can do that. From the restart in the middle, side bottom, hand pass to Nick Dacos. He's locked up by Rowbottom immediately. And a ball up, still inside the centre square.
First goal since the 28-minute mark of the second quarter for the Swans.
Up it goes. McLean and Frampton. Frampton wins it down, but straight to Rowbottom of the Swans. Hand pass out to Parker. Hurried kick forward. McDonald at the drop. Got it. Centre half forward. Right on the 50-metre arc. There's a few guys waving their arms inside forward 50. McDonald has a long look and then eventually says, I'm going for the big sticks. He just rolls out to the right, and in the end he's going to honour the leader. McLean carries his head and it's knocked out of bounds by Markov. Boundary throw-in. Forward pocket for Sydney. Collingwood by 17 points. 17 gone. Final term.
Is that a double bluff? Point to the sticks and then set play for pass.
I'd love him just to back himself and
go back and
knock one through from there. That can really lift your team. Really lift them.
Wily Western Australian, thrown back in. Frampton and McLean spilled down to the front. Papley's there again. Lost it this time to Quaynor. Noble runs into a dead end. Tackle over the shoulder. And he'll get the free kick 35 metres out from his defensive goal at the city end. As John Noble gets to his feet with the assistance of Quaynor. Collingwood leading by 17 points. Quaynor looks out to the members' wing, out towards Myercheck. Fox worked him underneath and spores it down to the front. Josh Dacos onto it. Hand pass to Crisp. Kicks towards a vacant wing. Members' side. Elliott engages with Cunningham. Runs onto it. Can't break the tackle. Drops into his boot. Out in front of DeGoey. Cannons into Florent. Florent's hand pass back to Cunningham. Good 2-on-2 battle. Back to Florent. Tackled by Elliott and Tom Mitchell. And Collingwood lock it up at left half forward. And Dacos comes over, a bit of pushing and shoving. Tom Mitchell's jammed onto the turf by Ollie Florent and wants to make sure he's the last player to get up. Lauren Borden on the boundary.
I'm just watching John Longmire now. He's going red in the face with how much he's yelling at the players as they go to this stoppage right in front of him on the Sydney benches.
We'll have another stoppage in the same spot, Loz, as it's knocked out of play.
Half-time at Docklands. The Saints 3-9-27 and North Melbourne 7 behind. So goalless in the first half. We'll take you there at the completion of this game.
3-1 in this final term, Collingwood's way. The fastest finishers in football. The Collingwood Football Club lead it by 17. Frampton wins it down, squeezing a kick forward. Josh Dacos playing in front. Ginnivan, free kick. It's a free kick for Ginnivan.
He has some big moments, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's been great in this last quarter. Everything he's touched has turned to gold so far.
He doesn't get too many free kicks these days. He looks for Big Mason, who's hit it up and marking. The American Pie at centre half forward, 30 metres out. And how's the setup from Jack Ginnivan? Just pop it in the air and there's very few guys that can reach it at 7 feet. Mason Cox has got it straight in front.
Well, he's had 2 inside 50 hits. He's kicked inside 50 that basically anyone else today has found really difficult to do. He's kicked 1 goal and then he's won a really strong 1v1 contest inside the centre square bounce. Jack Ginnivan out of the centre square bounce, but he's been terrific, and Mason Cox to finish the work.
Cox from straight in front, drop punt, misses. Behind, Collingwood by 18. I was about to say, for a guy that grew up playing a sport with a foot violation, he's an amazingly good kick, Mason Cox, especially for his size too and the amount of goals he pops through.
He is.
Sydney bring it back into play. Lloyd straight down the middle looking for Heaney. Brings it down to the front. Crisp sops it off the ground. Ricochets off McInerney to Francis. That might work. Hand pass out in front of Rowbottom on the members' wing. Lost his footing. Josh Dacos over the top. And the umpire says it was high contact. Swans will take the free kick.
Did you say, by the way, Quincy, that 0-7 North Melbourne at half-time?
Yep.
Under the roof?
Yep.
At Docklands.
It's gone a bit south for the Roos, it must be said, the last 3 or 4 weeks. As Callum Mills receives it from Rowbottom. Around the members' wing to McInerney. They've worked it to 75 metres out, short to Franklin. Lance Franklin veers out to the left. Long inside 50. Francis is there, Laddams as well, but Darcy Moore flies uncontested in the end. Takes the mark for Collingwood. 20 metres out from his defensive goal at the city end. Pies by 18 points.
It's his 11th intercept possession. Been very good all day, Darcy Moore.
Gordon just a 1 kick in the quarter, so he's up to 31 kicks for the day, which is a season high, but away off a record as Franklin chops off the Moore kick, pumps it back deep. Moore's in the pack again, no mark. Spills down the way of the Swans, hooking a kick around the body. Patley, chance for McDonald. He shoots Goldwood off balance, he misses. It's out of bounds. Oh, sorry, it's not out of bounds, it's through from behind. It's one off Collingwood's lead. They lead by 17 points, 22 gone, final turn.
Swans with 6-12 to Collingwood's 9-11. It sort of feels like the Swans' misses have been more telling than the Pies as Quaynor long out of defence up towards Frampton and McCartan. Tom McCartan in front position had enough of the footy to be paid the mark. Just had some changes to our champion data laptop, but I'd love to find out how many of them have been set shots for the Swans. It feels like they've had quite a few as Tom McCartan goes wide. Lloyd takes the mark.
Yeah, it feels like they've had a lot within 30 to 40 metres, and not relatively a hard angle that they've missed Sydney. It's just their routines let them down.
Lloyd into the middle of the ground for Blakey. Kicks looking for Warner up with one arm. Can't take the mark. Spills to Franklin. Hand pass over his shoulder. Noble runs onto it. Runs away from Francis and Goulden. Takes the bounce at right half back. Looks up to the southern wing and Elliott sliding down low. Takes the mark just inside the field of play.
It's great work rate by Jamie Elliott to push outside his direct opponent to provide an option for Noble running out of defence.
2 goals, 8. Clinchy, set shots. It's a good call out. There's a long kick from Elliott, goes down the line, and the Swans try to knock it away. Spills down towards Fox. Got it to Laddams. Hand pass to Florent. Kicks into the defensive 50, and McInerney marks. Centre half back for Sydney. They got to go. Desperation belongs to Sydney. Ugly kick. Skids through to Markov. He's bowled over by Heaney in the back. Free kick Markov. Collingwood at high half forward. Short kick to Josh Dacos. 17-point lead for the Magpies. Adam says, give it to me. Josh Dacos didn't want to do it, and Adam said, you must. And then they just pad some stats and trade some short kicks. Josh Dacos with it forward at the wing now. Collingwood by 17. Time on, final turn.
Josh Dacos veers out to the right. Kicks to the pocket looking for Ginnivan. It's over his head and rolls out of play in front of Jamie Elliott. And Florent for a boundary throw in.
It's almost foreign territory for Collingwood at the moment being in front.
It is.
Last quarter.
Heroics needed this week, at least at this stage. Crowd posted at 71,463.
It's a good turnout, isn't it?
So bumper Sunday afternoon for a chilly Sunday afternoon at the footy. Thrown back in, Laddams and Frampton. Frampton tries to take it after Laddams, one down the tap. Spills down the way of Elliott. He's locked up by Lloyd, and the umpire will ball it up. Umpire ready to throw it up with a lot of players around the ball. Laddams wins down the tap. Ginnivan roved at best. He's locked up by Parker, and the umpire will do it once more. Errol Goulden up to 36 disposals, including 31 kicks. 12 contested, 6 clearances and 5 inside 50s. The umpire throws it up once more. Frampton down to Nick Dacos, couldn't take it. Clark's right there with him. Wins it for Sydney. Hand pass to Parker to Rowbottom. Around the members' wing, links up with Florent. And now to Big McDonald. He can work it forward to Francis. He's got Buddy charging inside the forward 50. Kicks it just wide of him. And the 36-year-old watches frustratingly as it bounces out of play in front of he and Noble for a boundary throw in.
Just kicked off one step, didn't he there, Aaron France? Had enough time to get a bit of momentum up. I know he was trying to kick it directly to Buddy and get it there quick, but you still need to get some sort of momentum through the football.
Biggest crowd between these two teams at the MCG since the 1936 Grand Final.
Wow.
Third best all time with a Stadium Australia game chucked in that mix as well. From the stoppage, Clark tried to get a kick away, couldn't. Spills the way of Nick Dacos. Hand pass down the line. Mitchell under pressure, got it to Josh Dacos. Hand pass to Pendlebury. Tackled, taken to ground. But Papley just let him go in the tackle as he was falling to ground. And maybe that's progress. That's making sure he doesn't
hurt him.
Yeah, hurt his player. The ball trickles out of play. We'll have a boundary throw in. 55 out from the Sydney goal. Swans have it all to do. 4 minutes to go. They trail by 17.
25 minutes gone, final term. Toss back into play. Frampton gets to the front, knocks it down to Mitchell. Big tackle from McLean. Spills the way of Rowbottom, trying to jam it onto his boot while laying on the turf. McLean's tackled once more. Spills to Frampton. Hand pass out in front of Mitchell. He's in a tight battle with Roybottom, both at ground level. Josh Dacos, hand pass to brother Nick. Links up with Ginneman. Wanted to give the hand pass, nothing on offer. Dribbles it around the boundary line. To Chloe, cleverly with a little topo. Up to Elliott. To Nick Dacos. Back out in front of Chloe. It pinballs off Lloyd. Now to Taylor Adams. Hand pass to Elliott. They've worked this to half forward. The kick is smothered by Tom McCann. That was Globetrotters style, working it around the boundary, and it almost came to fruition.
It's almost like the equivalent sort of one touch in soccer, watching them work the ball up there and by handball and just play after play, rushing forward. Jamie Elliott getting up the ground and then racing back towards goal to stand out there.
Very blustery conditions, as you can probably hear coming through the effects mic from the boundary throwing. Socket away by Florent, close to the line. Dacos paddles it out in front. There's a free kick and a high tackle. It's going to Nick Dacos off the ball.
Had the angry pills all day, Callum Mills. Trying to throw his weight around a bit. Aimed a lot at Nick Dacos.
Won't be any happier now. The best and fairest winner, an All-Australian. A long kick into the pocket. Cox flies for it. Elliott had it, lost it, whacked out of his hands by Fox. A boundary throw in forward pocket for Collingwood. 17-point lead for the Magpies. 27 gone, final term.
$71,463 in at the MCG. As it's spinning back into play. Cox in front, wins down the tap, but straight to Errol Gordon. Another kick as he gets it up towards Pendlebury at half-back. Lloyd works in front, wins it for the Swans, tries to knock it to Gordon. Collingwood have the numbers. Sidebottom's hand pass to Pendlebury. He always has time as he swings onto his left and spots Nick Dacos. He marks 55 metres out from goal, out to the left. He's held up by Mills. Wants to give it to brother Josh. And marks no closer to goal, out to the left. Josh Dacos puts it out in front of Mason Cox or McCreary, who flies. McCreary couldn't hang on to it. They're now all set upon Luke Parker. And we'll ball it up 35 metres out from Collingwood's goal. Magpies by 17 points, 28 minutes gone, final term.
I think McCreary realised he had so much time and space. He surprised himself.
5 goals to 1 after half-time. Up it goes. Cox swats it down. Nick Dacos got his arms free. Hand pass away to Mitchell. Just bobbles it around along with Roybottom. He's now at pack forms and the umpire circles again. He's not keen to ball it up. He lets them go. Still pinballing around among 8 or 10 players. Roybottom squeezes a kick forward, turns it over. Frampton with it. Steps off his line. Hayward comes with him. Kicks inside 50 through the hands of Florent. To Goey. Snaps. Left peg. To ice the game. On the goal line. Brody Myercheck has thrown his boot at it in front of the goal umpire and kicked a volley out of midair. Holy smokes. The kick is floated in from the Goey and Myercheck in a wrestle on the goal line threw his leg at it horizontal and has kicked a contender for goal of the year.
Score review. No touch on that one, Blakes. He's got a fistful of his jumper, though.
Seen some parallels of soccer game, and that's a genuine scissor kick goal.
The Magpie Army on their feet. They'll love this as it comes in. It's a goal. And one of the most outrageous ones you're ever likely to see. Brody Myercheck with his 4th. And Collingwood lead it by 23 yet again at the half-hour mark of the final term. 10-11-71. Sydney 6-12-48.
I was going to say, I saw Geordie to go and kick a goal similar to that in the warm-up, so it wasn't going to surprise me if that one went through, but I'll tell you what, we all got out of our chairs with that one. That was fantastic. Brody Myercheck, good reward. He just continues to work hard, doesn't he, to kick 4 now. Always gets himself right place, right time. Not the most glamorous of big forwards, but just continues to turn up.
He's not the most glamorous, but kicks some unbelievable goals, doesn't he?
For a guy who was plucked from the VFL, is it better than Will Ashcroft's?
Looks like it got me out of my chair a bit more.
No.
I would have thought the degree of difficulty for Ashcroft's was, even though that was incredible. Collingwood went down the tap to Goey trying to get the clearance back to Mason Cox. He volleys it forward to Ash Johnson. All of a sudden, everything's clicking for Collingwood. Hand pass to Josh Dacos inside 50. Myercheck kick 5th. He knocks it down to Tom McCann. Gets it out to Florin. He's dragged down. Great tackle laid. Spills the way of Lloyd, who drives Sydney out of defence up to Heaney. He marks it right half back. Around the members wing to Papley. Quaynor comes racing back. It clears the two. Darcy Moore comes bounding after it. He's pretty content to keep it in while disguising that he really wanted to take it out. A throw in 60 metres out from the Swans' goal. Collingwood leading by 23 points.
We asked Don Pike at the start of the day whether we could see Isaac Heaney inject himself into the midfield. We haven't really seen that much today.
In it comes. Cox and McLean. McLean swats it down, but Quaynor there for the Magpies. Hand pass to Pendlebury, cruising off the half-back flank. Hand pass to Nick Dacos, short kick to Adams. Adams sells a dummy, slips over. Hand pass off his knees. A play on it from Ginnivan, inadvertently knocks it out of bounds. Ump says throw it in. Boundary umpire says deliberate. Came off below the knee. There's going to be a conference. There's going to be a free kick for Luke Parker. Mother's Day fixture next week for the Magpies back here at the G against the Giants as Parker heads inboard to half forward, falls down to Cunningham, kick smothered. The man wins the footy in Adams, high up and under, and Nick Dacos just says, get that out of here as he punches it over the boundary line to throw in 60 out from the Swans goal. Meanwhile, it's Fremantle next week for the Sydney Swans, who'll be feeling a little better about themselves. 2, 3 and 5 teams next Saturday at the Sydney Cricket Ground.
Toss back in. McLean won it down against Cox to Heaney. Hand pass to Lloyd. A row bottom tackled immediately. Noble pinned the arm. He jams it onto the boot. Taylor Adams takes it. It was touched off the boot. Kicks it back into the congestion through the hands of Cox. Out towards Nick Dacos. McLean knocks it away. Josh Dacos sockers it forward. Elliott trying to break away from the congestion. Cunningham slides in. Knocks it to the advantage of Fox. Hand pass to McLean. To Mills, centering kick, can't clear Big Mason. Cox got a hand to it. Heaney's hand pass straight to Noble. He turns it over. Hand pass to Ngoe, out in front of Frampton in the middle of the MCG. Can he get it forward to Quaynor? He can. Hand pass to Pendlebury, out to side bottom, to right half forward. Looks inside 50. Myercheck in the pocket. Got it. Into the goal through his fifth. Up into the crowd and celebrating as he leans over the fence. Brodie Myercheck with 3 goals in the final term. 5 for the match. And Collingwood are 7-1 with a 29-point lead. 11-11-77 to the Swans. 6-12-48.
We're just watching Brodie Myercheck live. You can see why he gets opportunities because he reads the ball really well, but he also just works himself into the ground. And as soon as there was a bit of a sniff that Collingwood were going to win that ball, he just raced forward and just could sense that Steele Sidebottom was going to get on the end of it and race straight towards goal and just beat his direct opponent straight out the back. And he's kicked a few miraculous goals today, but that one's just pure work rate to get that ball one out the back and kick it straight into row M in Tier 3.
Was it? You got a good eye.
It's a big one. There it is.
Collingwood by 29. They kick 7 goals to 1 after half-time to go 7-1. A game clear on top of the table.
They know how to play the game. Side by side they stick together to uphold the Magpies' name. See the Barricas are shouting as all Barricas should. Oh, the premierships are cakewalk for the good old Collingwood.
It was a feisty opening to the game as Ryan Clark kicked a goal. They let Nick Dacos know all about it. But don't bark up that tree. That tree will fall on you. And it absolutely did for the Sydney Swans. After leading at half-time, Collingwood came home with the proverbial wet sail yet again. 7 goals to 1 after half-time. Brodie Myercheck's kicked 5. 5 goals for Myercheck, including an outrageous volley on the goal line in the concluding moments. The Pies by 29.
Good old Collingwood forever. They know how to play the game. Side by side they stick together to uphold the Magpies' name. See the Barricas are shouting as all Barricas should. Oh, the premierships are cakewalk for the good old Collingwood.
Biggest crowd at the G to watch Collingwood and Sydney/South Melbourne since the 1936 Grand Final. They saw Collingwood take over after half-time to win by 29. 5 to Brody Myercheck, who is the only multiple goal kicker in the game. 1 to De Goey, 1 to Elliott, Frampton, Hoskin, Elliott, Ginnivan and Johnson. While for the Sydney Swans, 1 each to McLean, Clark, McDonald, Hayward, Papley and Mark Sheeter, who was subbed out of the game early in the second half. So Sydney fall to 3 and 5. And Collingwood exact some measure of revenge from that preliminary final defeat, the Pies by 29.
Thoughts of Brett Delidio and Mark Murphy with you on ABC Sport.
Well, they didn't have to come from behind today, Murph. The Pies, they had control of that game. Little slithers of hope, I reckon, for the Swans, but they just couldn't quite execute their skills more than anything. I feel like they had a heap of the footy. 430 disposals to 353 of the Pies. But they did a lot of finding of the footy without doing a whole lot with it, if that makes sense. Led by probably Errol Goulden, 37 disposals. Well done to him, 32 kicks. We were hoping for him to get to 40 kicks, but I don't think that was ever going to happen in the last quarter. But they just really controlled the game quite well. Darcy Moore down back, thought he was terrific most of the day. 11 intercept possessions. Scotty Pendlebury just has so much time and class with ball in hand. Everyone just falls off him. He's been doing it for 500 games. Seriously,
it just makes football look easy, and it's not that easy, especially when you're 36.
I know, but yeah, look, mate, they're pretty well-rounded team performance from Collingwood. A few things to tidy up, probably still for if Craig McRae's watching the game tonight. But overall, they'd be very pleased to come away with that victory over the Swans.
Yeah, they would be, and we sort of see again with. Nick Dacos has been a star throughout this season, but today had a bit of a lesser day, but still the group's very even in terms of disposals. You're not relying upon a couple of blokes getting the high 30s. They're all pretty even, other than maybe, obviously, Pendlebury today had the 31 disposals, but everyone else throughout that team has 22, 23, 24, 25 touches, and they're just an even contributed side, really, and they've got some genuine stars in amongst that, but I thought they just made use of their possessions a lot more than what Sydney were able to do today. And it's usually been one thing that Sydney's been really strong at the last 18 months, has been really good with ball in hand. But going inside 50 today, they just didn't make the most of their opportunities. One by hitting the target, but then when they had their opportunity in front of goal with those set shots, I'm not sure what they finished up with Clinchy, but they were 2 goals 8 at one point in that last quarter. And you're just not going to win too many games when you're missing that many opportunities, when you should be able to just go back into your routine and get the job done.
Certainly not the easiest thing to do, though. I'm no expert on set shots, Murph, and I know a lot of big forwards that missed plenty of goals and shots on goal. But you're right, with those opportunities, especially when you're away from home and you're trying to stay on the right foot with physicality and whatever else, it's... But they're the ones that you've got to go through. Yeah,
not only do they obviously hurt you on the scoreboard, but they're deflating for the team when you're working so hard to try and get that ball inside 50. You get a mark or a free kick and have a set shot from 30 to 40 out, and you'd usually bank them, and you don't. Usually a good side in Collingwood will make you pay, and that's what they did today.
Sir Swamp Thing had it as 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth biggest crowd involving an interstate club. 71,463. The biggest crowd was 76,995. That was round 23 Richmond and Brisbane back in 2019. So a massive showing given the two sides featured in a prelim final last year, which Sydney prevailed by a point. But as Corby may mention, the Pies 7-1 and a game clear of Melbourne on top of the AFL ladder. And the Swans all of a sudden 3-5 in the season, just starting to trickle away from them.
Well, I was starting to think halfway through that third quarter. I don't know, we hit a bit of a dead spot in that game, or in the game in that quarter, but I was like, maybe they're not that bad, the Swans. We're all saying, they've been terrible since the heavy loss in the grand final, but their ability to stay in games, and had they finished off games, they were actually talking about them in probably a bit differently. But yeah, unfortunately, they sit where they sit, don't they, Clinchy? And that's the nature of the beast. Collingwood, their ability to finish games is better than anyone's, and that's why they sit on top of the table, while I still don't think they're playing their best footy.
So the Swans with Freo, North Melbourne and Carlton in the next 3 weeks. So the Roos have scored a goal, so St Kilda 3-10-28, leading North Melbourne 1-7-13. We'll take you there in a few minutes' time, but that Freo game shapes as a massive clash for the Sydney Swans at the SCG next Saturday to try and get closer to the 500 and get their season back on track and stay in touch with the top 8. How much better do you feel like Collingwood can get, though? They're banking the wins. They're setting the foundation for being top 4 and potentially top 2 with such a great start to the year.
Yeah, I think, get a few troops back. Who are they still missing? Darcy Cameron come back in as their number 1 ruck, probably.
Jeremy Howe.
Well, he's just an added bonus, isn't he, off coming into their half-back line.
Pat
Lipinski's another good role player, can play the wing and probably releases someone else to go through that midfield, another number that can go through there, so...
Probably Dan McStay are the ones who are in their best
Dan McStay,
22.
yeah. And to be another key target up forward. But we've also seen Ash Johnson probably come in and take a couple of chances. Wasn't his best game today, but did a few good things. So, look, I just feel like those moments we spoke about during the call was they're missing... they're not playing a complete game at the moment, which happens in footy, I get that. And Sydney put them under a lot of pressure today. So, yeah, room for improvement, but you'd take that at 7-1, wouldn't you?
Certainly would. It's still to come, our 3, 2 and 1 for the ABC Footballer of the Year.
Yes.
We've got them to give us rapid fire at some stage, Lids. In fact, if you've got them, we might fire them now as we wait for Collingwood to make their way down the race.
Yeah, one vote I gave to Errol Goulden, 37 disposals today. Thought he worked very hard. I reckon 14 or 15 in the third quarter, huge third quarter. 2 votes goes to big checkers, Brody Myercheck, 5 goals. Loved his work rate and just ability to keep turning up. And 3 I gave to Scotty Pendlebury, the oldest man out there, and manages to still get it 31 times and make blokes look silly.
3 to Pendlebury, 2 to Myercheck, and 1 to Errol Goulden from Brett Delidio in the ABC Footballer of the Year. So in about 90 seconds, we're going to take you to Docklands. It's the Saints 3-11-29. Leading North Melbourne 1-7-13, and we'll get a reaction from the Collingwood rooms and bring you that at the completion of the match at Docklands. So they do take their time wandering into the change rooms, and they do that trademark where they now all go quiet, and I think it's Steele Sidebottom who finally gives them the permission to fire off the song. So let's join the Magpies with Lauren Borden.
A very happy Collingwood side here in the rooms with a lot of family and friends and young kids watching on, Clinchy.
Thanks very much to Lauren Borden. We'll record an interview and bring it to you. Collingwood winners by 29 points, 11-11-77 to the Swans, 6-12-48 in a game in which Brody Myercheck booted 5 goals for the winners, and Collingwood are 7 wins and 1 loss, a game clear of Melbourne on top of the AFL ladder. Thanks, Lids. Thank you, Murph.
Pleasure.
Thanks to Loz, to Stuart Baker and to Brett Sprigg, the guru, back in the studio. We're now going to take you to Docklands in Melbourne with Ben Cameron, Andrew Mays, Brad Sewell, Nathan Burke and Jess Webster. The Kangaroos 2-7-19 trailing the Saints 3-11-29. Enjoy your night with ABC Sport.